Jambo, my name is Isaac Rotich. I come live to you every day from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, East Africa. I think the most underrated animal here where we are is the spotted hyena. And the main reason is people haven't read any literature to fully understand about this super predator. Join me in my next adventure in the African wild on DSTV channel 183.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have baby Bahati and her mom still on the same spot as yesterday. My name is Tim, and welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Jambo everyone, warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. Baby Bahati is still at the same spot where we left, and that is good news. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Very nice weather, a little bit chilly, 17 degrees Celsius and about 62 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been a long night for this too. I can see the male that was keeping them at bay still too close to them, and mom has not left the spot. I hope they will have to leave about soon, but since he's still around, and I'm sure he wants just to get too close to this baby, you know, it's nature taking its course, but I really hope that this baby will get to survive. And mom is doing a very good job keeping her alive, and can see what she's doing. She's just too close to mom. Very nice, very playful this morning. What a cute little cub. I am so much excited. I'm sure everyone is. Please send us your comments and questions at #WildEarth. For our young viewers, kids question at wildearth.tv. On the YouTube comment section at AFC. I can hear the little cub calling, and I think she wants milk. So they spent the night, they spent the day yesterday. So this is almost 24 hours at this same spot. She's still growling at him. See baby Bahati innocently playing with the tail. I'm super much excited to see the baby Bahati and her mom still at the same spot. So I'm going to hang around here and see what's going to happen as I take you over to another live location.
Well, I think Bahati will live up to his name if he makes it. But Jambo everyone, it's another lovely morning. Welcome to another side of this beautiful place, the Masai Mara. I have a nice, very big herd of elephants, and looks like they have done something very wrong because they are running away from me and away towards the marsh. Good morning, my name is Isaac, and on camera I have Bungay. Today it's nice and cloudy, but we have found this beautiful herd of elephants that is innocently walking very fast. I don't know what they did up at the villages, but looks like they are on a mission. This is typical for these elephants. They normally come towards the edge. I don't mean they did anything, but they come towards the edge of the boundary, graze here, browse here, and then slowly in the morning head towards the marsh. There was a lot of trumpeting down towards the marsh, so I don't know if we have a new calf or not. Or maybe they were chasing hyenas or lions, and I think this is where this herd is heading, maybe to join that other herd that is either celebrating, because usually when a newborn is born, there is a lot of trumpeting and noise. I think it's just like we humans, we celebrate, they do celebrate. Here, definitely there is communication happening, because nobody is taking an interest in the most delicious food that they feed on, the grass. Everybody is on a mission, as you can see. Nobody is even stopping. They just want to get somewhere. Remember to talk to us. #WildEarth. Question, comments, very, very welcome. Make it interesting. And this morning, there's no single, it's very cloudy and the sun is out somewhere, definitely. We can't see it, but it is perfect. The temperature is just right. We are at around 17 degrees Celsius, which is just right, to be out here this early morning. Everybody should be out, lions, hyenas, and everybody. As it looks like I might have to follow these elephants towards the marsh. I might not be able to follow them straight, but I'll go zigzagging until I come across where they are making noise. And while I do that, let one of my other colleagues introduce him or herself in our next live location.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. Welcome to your live safari from the African wilderness here at Djuma Game Reserve. Sitting with beautiful clan on the temperature of 20 degrees 68 Fahrenheit. And it's quite a cloudy, slightly of a wind picking up, which I think is probably going to be like this for quite a while today. My name is Andrew on camera. I have Morgan this morning, so this is how we be taking you to a safari of the wilderness in this area. We visited the den. It's active with one adult and a young one. They are all beautiful out of that den site. It's better when they have one of the bigger one here, that they're all safe. She's had a lot of experience of keeping this whole of a young one there safe, even though she's only alone. And looks like she's the only mother at the moment with her two young ones drinking. I spotted a hyena give birth to two puppies. As you can see there, looks like they trying to fit into the same position of milk. I'm not sure when did she arrive in this den site, probably early this morning or in the middle of the night. It takes time for them to be able to trust when, especially they arrive into this den. What she will do, she will circle around, check if it's safe before she called these young ones out, since they are still vulnerable to big cats such as a lion. Even a leopard would harm this young one. So I'm going to take another time here, see what these hyenas do. And while we're doing this, I'm going to be taking you to another safari guide who will be showing you the wilderness of Africa.
morning, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. It's a bit of an overcast morning. We've got quite a large group of waterbuck that has just kind of walked over the road and down onto the other side of the ditch. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan. On camera, we've got OD the OG. And this morning is a bit overcast, quite windy, and I've headed into the western part of the reserve where, on the way back from drive last night, one of the guides saw a pack of wild dogs. So I'm going to spend some time here trying to listen while we're standing still. If you look on our right-hand side as well, there's a great big watering hole. And as Odie zooms in to the back, there's some hippos at the back there. And as he comes down, some hippos right at the back. Just have a look at them wallowing, and then right close to us, there's actually 2 crocodiles. So there's one sitting right on the water's edge there. You see how close it is to the edge? I reckon he's waiting for it to warm up, or he or she is waiting for an innocent bystander to come past the water's edge. There's a second one there as well to the left. See, he or she, not actually 100% sure, just angled itself towards the other one, watching and waiting for someone or something to come by. Now, also interestingly, Odie, if you go onto the right-hand side of the watering hole, there's a couple or a vulture that has just flown down. Just on the edge there. Can you see it there, Ods? So a vulture that has just come down, it looks like there might be a tawny eagle on the... no, it's an Egyptian goose. Apologies. But you see that vulture? While I'm sitting here, they're really good signs. Vultures will follow wild dogs. So while I'm sitting here at this great big watering hole, it's nice and open and I can see incredibly far, which gives us a great advantage to see animals like vultures, hyenas, and the wild dogs. Both the vultures and the hyenas will follow the wild dogs, knowing how good they are at hunting. And I'm really hoping they get up and move in an easterly direction from where they were seen last night. The conditions and weather conditions are perfect for them to be hunting. Nice and cool. The wind as well will be in their favor. There's a little, looks like a yellow-billed kite that is flying there as well. So I'm going to spend the next few moments sitting here listening. Yep, yellow-billed kite, you see the V. Listening to see if we can't hear the wild dogs or see them moving around. In the meantime, I'm going to send you to another live location.
Welcome back to where we have baby Bahati and her mom still at the same spot where we found or left them last night. They actually did not left that spot. Now that young male is still closer, he's just hiding on the termite mound about 1.5 meters apart. So behind that termite mound on the right of the screen, there's that young male who's too close to these two, but mom is very much protective of her cub. Now, baby Bahati is being protected by a mom who's ensuring that infanticide is not happening, because infanticide, we happen to see that when males take over new prides or male intruders who come into these pride territories, when they come across cubs like Bahati, they definitely want to kill them. So this is always in mammals. Sometimes you can find zebras, stallions who come to take over the mares. When they come across the young foals, they'll definitely do the same. It's been reckoned that it also happens in insects, even sometimes fish and amphibians. And sometimes you can also find hippos doing the same. So this is actually one thing that is common in nature and in animal kingdom. So because of that, scientific research says that this is because the males or the perpetrators of the infanticide get the advantage of mating with the females to see a new gene coming up, because no one will want to raise young ones from another lion or a male. Linda, thank you so much for your question. The rest of our pride, last night I had them about 1.5 kilometers away. I had them raw, And seems like Olalashe, the big male that was mating with the rest of the sisters, is close by. We saw about 4 to 5 days ago when Olalashe, together with this young male that was here, moving around together, because Olalashe was mating with the sisters, he could not allow him to get any closer because he's young, he's small, and Olalashe is big, he demands respect. So he's trying to get as much as he can, an advantage to see if he can be accepted in this pride. And by that doing, he has to get closer or bite out that little cub. But mom, I'm sure, is trying so much to protect this cub. Will this be the second day running? I'm not so sure. James, thank you for your question. By the look of it, I saw it might be a male, but I'm not quite sure. I will keep on trying to see. Then I'll let you know. At the moment, you have to be because it's kind of hidden in the grasses. You can't really tell the gender because at this age, you have to look at the genitalia to tell the sex. So I have to keep on looking, and then I'll update you. Not so sure if this is going to take the second day, or maybe in the afternoon they might leave. So I'll still hang around here watching what will happen. I'm still not sure if this lioness gave birth to only Bahati or there were other 2 cubs, because normally you find a litter will consist of 3 cubs. But sometimes you can find only 1. But not so sure if it was only Bahati or the 2 that were born maybe succumbed. You never know. But let's hope she was the only one, or he or she was the only one that was born. While Bahati keeps us entertained here, let me take you over to another live location.
Beautiful. We're still sitting in this den site where the young one are having their own time. Now they are far from that adult. They're even close to us, where, as you know, they are so good about getting used to or comfortable to a car, as they've been visited by a lot of vehicles out here, and they haven't actually experienced any threat from these vehicles. So it's so cool because they only have to do this. Came out this far from the den, I would say far. If the mother was not around here, this is far from them for emergency. If they have to run back to that den, that's going to be far enough. I won't reach it in time. The spotted hyena, they're well built up with kind of a shape they got, so they have a lower back and a high front. They had the advantage of have a lot of power on their shoulders, capable of taking prey from other animals also, or killing for their own. But for that, they would carry that carcass back to the den, or one of these females give birth, sometimes away from this den site. What she does, she carries that baby one by one, if there are two of them, and back to this den here, where everybody will they will participate on everything in terms of safety. She will take care of them all here. But when it comes to milk, they don't cross-drink from different mothers, not quite often. As you can see, that one, if you see that the mother right now drink, it happens they are twin, but they're the only one going to drink right now. And the others weren't allowed. She'll always growl at them or bite them off. Look at these two. That youngest one, still dark in color. Haven't changed it yet. All of these, those who are running around here, they're already showing a lot of spots, which some 4 months, some 4 months older, some quite a few different age in the stand here. Seeing two of them, they were trying to drink in there. It's quite active of them trying to exercise and running around. So I'm going to stay put again, see what this hyena do, while I'm sending you to another guide who will be continuing showing you a beauty of the wilderness.
A very good morning to you from andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where Gerrit and I just heard some monkeys alarm calling and some impalas, and we found these lions here. It looks like 3 sub-adult males and their mum, and they're slowly walking down there to the dry riverbed. My name is Dewald, and behind the camera we've got Gerrit, and we were actually coming into this area to see if we can look for some cheetah, but then the alarm calls of all the impalas and everything behind us let us know that there is something here, and we found these lions. Have a look, they are super playful, these 3 young sub-adult males. Look at that. So we only found the one lioness with these 3 males, and it seems like they're slowly going down towards quite a dense area there at the bottom. And by the looks of things, if you look at those 2 walking there, can't really see very fat bellies. They've got a bit of something in their stomachs, but not too full. And they're slowly walking and then stopping, and we wonder if their mom is leading them down to the thicker area to maybe go and hunt for a bit. But I think we are going to lose a view of them pretty soon as they go down the hill here. So look at that one just stopping and looking back towards his sibling. All 3 of them there. There you can see, I think it looks like the lioness right at the bottom there, and the 2 males walking behind, and the other sub-adult male is further to the right hand side there. There we go. All 3 of them heading down towards the thicker area. I think we are going to try and stick with these lines for now, but we're going to lose a view of them. So Gerrit and I are going to see if we can reposition the vehicle, and then we'll see what these lines get up to.
Welcome back. I can see baby Bahati's walking up and about. He got too close to the young lion. Then mom was not happy, came to defend her. I can see now Bahati's walking back to the long grass. Just listen to that. Karen, at the moment, Mom cannot do anything or leave this sighting because wherever she wants to take Bahati, he'll keep on following. So, unfortunately, she cannot hunt if this male lion is here. So, I can say that it cannot happen at the moment because baby Bahati is vulnerable at the moment. If she takes her to a den rather, and this male gets to see that. So she has to wait until this male is out of her sight so that she can go hide Bahati. Thank you for your question. The reason why she cannot move and go hide Bahati is because the male will keep on following, and because she doesn't want the hiding place to be seen, so she has to be out here in the open. Remember, when they're swapping cubs or swapping dens, these cubs have to be hidden where now none other than her knows the exact hiding place. Because if other intruders or other lions or hyenas get to know where she's going to hide the cub, then that cub will be in danger, vulnerable. So she's the only one who needs to know where she's going to hide the cub. Still waiting here and watching what mother will do, and while Bahati is trying to ask Mom for some milk, I'll send you over to another live location.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari, a beautiful sunrise there as you can see. My name is Oba King. Behind the camera there we've got Dave doing a great job there. As the sun hit the surface of the Kalahari, we were fortunate also to pick up on a female, and it looks like a cub treks. So we'll be following on these treks and see what we can find later on for you guys. Beautiful sun indeed. I mean, look at the colors. It's always amazing for me to see how the colors always change with the sunrise and with the sunset. It will go from the red, the orange, the purple, and so on. Beautiful landscape also with the corona back there. Alright guys, without further ado, let me stick on these treks and continue with them, see where and how far they take us, and we'll catch up later, taking you over to a next very beautiful location somewhere else in Africa.
Thanks, Obi. So as you can still see this beautiful creature we're looking at right now in this den, they haven't yet disappeared into the mound, and it's just because mother, she's also taking it easy. One of the adults right there. You can see these young ones also playing around, and some are trying to bite on the dry log, but for them to be able to exercise their canine, these young ones, see how that log is going to be moved. I know they've put those logs there for purposes. So some other driver mustn't go near them more than that. But, finally these logs will be moved because these guys are now getting into a stage where they have gained a lot of power. Of course, hyena, they're one of the successful animal. So there are in the wild about 4 different species of hyena, and one of them classified as wolf, but they same kind of a type. Brown hyena we don't have here, and the striped hyena as well. Haven't seen one. So this pretty much hyena you can see throughout the Kruger Park most of the time. We're in the kind of AB Jake whiskey. You want to know what these cubs are in terms of male or females, anything like that? I haven't really taken a look at this one, the young one, and then I'm sure I'll probably know them soon. It's kind of a animal that are, especially in this kind of age, and not easy, cannot really tell unless if you look at them carefully. And they are, since they have a kind of a system where female and the male, they kind of look at the similar in terms of genitalia, where they grow both genitalia from female to male. So, but when they're slightly big enough, maybe 7 or 8 months, that's where usually you can tell apart even when they're moving from the distance. A lot of time females should show a lot of a clear teeth where there's no lot of hair in them, and sometimes a testicle possible, not much of a hair on the males. So on the females, because the female also she have them, but they a lot of hair on them, around them. So they are, I know a long time ago they thought to be hermaphrodite, which just before the study has worked on this animal, able to work out what's happening, how they do this. So now it's been published that they're actually not hermaphrodite. So this then may change every now and then, depending on how activity here happening. So there's something happening sometimes where they're disturbed by fleas that will give a lot of time or hard time to a young one, or even a bigger one knows sleeping in these holes. So this is where they will switch to another mound. So I'm gonna stay put here. I'm not gonna move right now. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna be taking you to another guide who will be continue showing you the beauty of the wilderness.
Well, from one carnivore to another carnivore. Here I have the silver-backed or the black-backed jackal, and these are the 3 puppies that I've been sharing with you the last couple of weeks, and they're very, very far away from the last den, almost 5 kilometers from there. Their parents are not very far, you will be seeing them, but the behavior has changed dramatically. They're not behaving like they were before, coming towards the vehicle, being very inquisitive. They're just very wary, and it is normal. For when they grow up, they learn to be wild, and looks like they have learned to be wild. Remember, this is the silverback jackal, a very common one, and predator that for many years was mistaken to be a scavenger, but they are very, very efficient, hunters. The farthest one is the parent, is one of the adults. and then the 3 to the left are youngsters. These guys do hunt, birds, scrub hares. They do hunt, even small creepy crawlies. And looks like these puppies are doing really, really well. Remember, they can be very, very vocal. They are associated with kills. When you see them, chances are there is a kill, but not today. And looks like the 3 are wondering, Mom didn't give us a warning, follow us. And so they're wondering, do we follow or do we stay behind? Still very inquisitive with life. Picking up scents, trying to smell different things. I don't know what, that one smells. Sometimes they do rub other animal scents onto their body, and so that they can replicate them. And so in case, they can be a threat to those animals. Look like they are following suit. They are following their parents. Maybe there's something they're heading towards. I'm not very sure. Yeah, the jackal, gives birth to up to 6 puppies. And usually it's in a barrow. Yeah, in a period of about, 2 weeks. They normally stay put in the barrow, and then they'll be moved every couple of months. And the gestation period is very short. It's less than 3 months. And so every year, adult jackals will give birth sometimes to either, 2 sets. After every 6 months, they're weaned, and so they will give birth once again. I'm going to try and follow them a little bit more. Looks like it's interesting. Maybe the mother has smelled some food, and she's leading them towards the food. So let's follow and find out. Yeah, their sense of hearing is very, very good. That's why they have those big ears, and also their sense of smell, really good. Well, I'm going to try and follow them a little bit. I hope they stay on the track. Let's take you to another live safari vehicle.
From the jackal pups back to a baby Bahati. I don't know what the mom has had, because she keeps on raising her head and twitching her ears. If you just a little bit left of her, you can see the other lion's ears. They're too close. But mom is also keeping an eye, making sure that he doesn't get too close or near Bahati. This is one of the rarest things to ever come across, because to have a male lion close to a cub and their mother for this long is actually not common. If it was a big male, then he would have overpowered Bahati's mother and actually got to Bahati. But seems like he's overpowered by Bahati's mom. So that is a good thing. I'm happy about that, because he can't really get too close to Bahati, or he can get tense or get some scratches and biting from Bahati's mom. So still sticking here and watching these two as Bahati innocently tries to get too close to the young lion. Jessica, thank you so much. The fathers, I can't really tell, because there are so many males that will come around here, and I didn't see her mating, so I'm not quite sure who Bahati's father is. And if Bahati's father is around, then that will be good news, because he'll protect Bahati, and that is what lions need whenever they have cubs. So I'll also be keen to know Bahati's father. Megan, yes, if he falls asleep and they happen to go, he can follow the scent and trail them, but that will be enough time for Bahati's mom to hide her in a safe place. Thank you for your question. The reason why that young male is hanging around is because he wants to do what we call infanticide. That is when mammals will kill other species, other lions or other males, young ones. So he wants actually to kill Bahati. And that is the reason why he's too close. And that will always trigger the mom to go into season or go into estrus after about 3 to 4 weeks. And normally you find those females or this lioness will not entertain that, will always try to protect the cub. And it's reckoned that a quarter of a liter in all the lions that are born, a quarter always get killed by other lions. So that is nature also. But most of the time you find that when they're about to be weaned, once they're almost getting to independence, lionesses always are successful to protect their young ones. So at this age, it's vulnerable because look at her, she's just by herself. And if something goes wrong, and if Bahati gets too close to him, then one bite can really kill Bahati. That's the reason why the mom is actually making sure that she protects Bahati. I'm going to send you over to another live location.
Yeah, hopefully everything went well with these cubs. A lot of politics happening, this animal. So we're sitting here in this den, so you can see this female. She's now up because she got irritated by that slightly big cub trying to drink from her, and then she doesn't want that because it's not her baby. So she's trying to bite it off several times. Or sometimes if you don't realize, or here she have, I think, 2 babies of hers. If she fallen asleep while this baby drinking, they can switch. They can sneak around this big one drinking until she realizes, oh, and somebody else's baby. And then from there, would able to push it off or bite it off. They do their best by sniffing on their genitalia. And many times, this is when they greet or able to identify one another in a clan. So every time they meet up, they will be able to know this is our partner or those that belong to the same clan over here. So greeting for all animals, it's a key where they were able to communicate from there. And even they move far apart during a hard course of hunting. At night, they use a chemical gland, which is on there. They have an anal gland in that animal. And then just like a dwarf mongoose moss. So they walk over, very strong trees or, bushes. And they raise their tail when they do that. And all they just slightly down on their back and then touch that, able to allow the gland be left in this. Sorry, can you repeat that again? I didn't understand what might morph. Yeah, sorry, I lost that question there. So these logs put by guides, what happened, sometimes they're trying to prevent, but they only do that when there is no active den. So, but maybe before, once they know this den is not active anymore, but then they have to know somehow it comes in active when these hyena want to use them. So what they do, they come and reposition the logs, and then that reason it's for a limit of driving close to that entrance, because otherwise this animal, you won't have a den active if that happens. So they don't want a lot of a smell of difference, especially human visiting that entrance. They were able to smell this. And once that had happened, they would probably, move from this den here and go somewhere else. But yeah, so the best way of putting this log here, it's got to be this den not active in that same time that they all know is never visited for a period of time. So you do that, in case they come back, it's going to be controlled, so you don't put yourself into that site, and otherwise they will smell that you visit there as human, or they can smell anybody come near the den there. After that, when the female come back, check around the den, and this is where she would have picked up, there was a visitor here, and that she will worry too much. They're one of the animals that are strong, but very sensitive to their babies. When they're not around, they all worry about anything can happen when they're not around. But this hyena, it looks like a successful breeding in this clan here. Seen a lot of young one in one den. One thing for sure, the den occupied by females a lot of time. If the male come around, can, but they probably won't last long. They will probably just don't like it. So the young one only raised by their mother. And all different mother, as you can see, all different age of this baby, all belong to different mother. But it's that they haven't been back this morning, so we'll probably be back while we're around here, because I'm going to stay put again just to see if there's going to be any change. And while we're doing that, let me take you to another guide who will continue to show you beauty of the wilderness in Africa.
Well, good luck with the hyena, but here I have a huge herd of Cape buffalo. It is one of our biggest herd. I haven't seen them for a few days, and it's nice to see them, here close to the road. See how many young ones we have. Hundreds. So they are doing very, very well. Remember, Cape buffalo are residents of the Mara and these parts of Africa, but they're very widespread, found everywhere. Almost half of Africa you'll find them, but their main dominant place to find them is just below the equator, all the way down to southern Africa. It is an animal that is rarely preyed on directly by many predators. Only when situation forces them is when they are hunted. Otherwise, they are immune to very many predators. Sometimes, lions, hyenas will take young ones and sometimes adults, but those means they are desperate times even for the lions. The reason is they possess an anger, and they're very fast and very strong. What you see here, breeding herd, mixture of everybody, and they're happy grazing. The weather is just perfect, eating what actually constitutes most of their diet is grass. And a breeding herd needs a lot of area to, get enough for everybody. And they always, moving on. They never go back to the same pond, same part of the area. They don't migrate, the buffaloes, so they are residents, but they need a huge area to be able to get enough grass or grazing for everybody. As you can see, those are buffalo, they are not wildebeest. What a beautiful scene. Yes, remember to talk to us, #WildEarth. Questions and comments are really, really welcome. Well, in this kind of herd, usually there is no, stress with mating because, ratio is almost the same. But when a female comes into season, there's always trouble. Big males fight for mating rights, and the biggest one does get the chance. and once mating has happened, the female will wait for about 11 months to be able to have its young. Yeah, they're even-toed ungulates, which means they're hoofed mammals, and it's one of the, even-toed ungulates we get here. Most of, of all the ungulates we get here actually even-toed ungulates, apart from the zebra, the rhino, and the elephant. We call them odd-toed ungulates. These are the Cape buffalo. Their senses are all very good, and after eating for a while, you'll find them, they rest. I call it, it's like they have an automatic switch that tells them we've had enough. Our large intestine, the rumen, has been filled up, and they rest and leave the bacteria in their tummies to break down. Daniel, Jumbo, do the buffaloes graze up the slope? Yes. It does look steep, but they do go all the way up there, almost 3/4 up. You do see them. Hopefully one day one of our cameras will show you. They do go up there and graze, and then they come down. So there's no problem going up there. Well, their digestive system has to rest. They have to break down all the material in the plants to be able to fully utilize all the nutrients, and by doing that, they sit down, then they regurgitate just like our domestic cows, because they have 4-chamber stomach, and fully utilize it. It's a water-dependent animal, needs to drink every day. And that's why you don't find them in really arid areas. They don't do very well. They get affected very quickly where there's not enough grass or, or water. And although there are that many, it will take just one to get spooked and start running, then everybody runs. But sometimes if they decide to attack, if one decides to come, everybody will come. And I can imagine what can happen to you. Well, I'll leave you with that view to enjoy while we take you to the next live location.
What a big buffalo herd. Back to a lion, Bahati is snuggling with mom, and I can see the other lion's ears twitching in the long grass. This is too close, but then mom is very, very tough, and I'm sure she's going to guard Bahati. Now I might leave and maybe head somewhere else, because this seems like they're going to still hang around here, and before the end of the show, I'll still come back to check on what's going on here. See, mom is doing a good job to protect Bahati. So Marianne, thank you. The only thing that can make that male leave is if Bahati's mom's sisters come along, and if Bahati's father comes here. So definitely he'll have to leave this area. See you, Bahati. So I'm going to find something else, and I'm going to send you over to another live location.
So we had the lioness with the 3 sub-adults earlier, and we went to a nice lookout point and we spotted these lions from far, far away. And these are 2 lionesses that is part of the pride. But have a look at the right-hand side, lioness. See how she's looking into the bushes there? I want you to look at her cheek there. She's got quite a bit of blood and stuff just below her chin and on this side of her face. I wonder if she's maybe got a carcass inside the dry riverbed here behind them. But the other lioness, she looks like she doesn't have too much on her. I can't see any blood also on her face. But Gerrit and I was just thinking now, this Pride, so we saw the one lioness with this 3 sub-adult male cubs, and a bit of a sneeze there. One of these lionesses has 2 fairly young cubs, so I'm hoping that they come out. See how she's grooming herself there, trying to get that last bit of blood and stuff off of her chin and off of her chest. Really trying to get there underneath her chin. Just grooming away. So she'll be doing this to avoid the blood and the smell of the carcass to fester on her there, and also for all the insects, the flies and stuff that would come and sit on her for that. There you can see when she picks her head up, you can see that bloody patch where she's trying to lick. Bellatrix, you're asking how long a lion can go without water. Without water, not too long. I would say they need to drink water at least every 3 or 4 days. But food, they can go for a little bit longer. But Bellatrix, I also think it depends on what they've eaten. So if they eat quite a big carcass and there is some moisture that they get from it, but they really need to drink water every now and then to survive. See how these lionesses, they just pick their heads up every now and then and smell there's a bit of a breeze coming over. You'll see them pick their noses up every now and then just to smell the sense that the wind is carrying. But see how that lioness on the right is like listening forward with her ears and listening towards the dry riverbed there behind her. I wonder if her youngsters, or the youngsters that we're talking about earlier, the 2 cubs, is maybe somewhere in this dry riverbed close by. And literally as we spotted them, the sun came out behind the clouds and they immediately came down to this nice shaded spot here. But if I have a look at this female, I haven't seen her standing up yet. It'll be interesting to see how full their bellies are, because that'll tell us how big the carcass is that they've been feeding on. But for now, I think Gerrit and I are just going to stand by here with these lions and see what they get up to.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. As I was saying earlier on, we are following on a female and cubs, and if you look, what we have here is actually the 3 little cubs sets, 1, 2, and there's the 3rd one over there, but very, very small, as you can see with the measuring device here. These cubs are about 3.5 months of age, and also just starting to move about with mom. So this is very, very interesting if we could actually find them. Mom was walking a little bit more, excuse me, a little bit more to my left here. They are heading in the direction of the sun, which will make our trekking a little bit easier, because then it highlights where they've walked, and this is how we're gonna keep following. I've got a very good feel today, Dave, that we are gonna be lucky. I mean, from the time the sun was hitting the ground, we were fresh and hot on these trails, and it's getting fresher and fresher. Couldn't be more excited. Guys, let's not waste time. I'm going to keep hot on these treks. I'll send you to the next location.
Beautiful. Oh, good luck there. This den this morning is so beautiful. Of these beautiful creatures moving around in and out of that entrance. Sound of happiness, even though these ones' mother hasn't been back here. It's so that, they are out there hunting. You remember, it's been kind of like a cloudy since midnight in this area in Lowveld. That makes a lot of carnivore species to focus on hunting pretty much. And that they will keep doing that even this time. When now we're sitting on very much of a sunrise. It's too much bright, but they still have a lot of strength to keep on hoping that if they would keep up on their hunting, they're probably going to succeed. And they're highly scavenged, but they can able to make their own kill these animals. So it's all about working together. So in terms of hunting, they cooperate, work as a team, members. And the team member we're talking about not only those, dominating this mound. It's a lot of family members out there. Those have maybe different stands somewhere else. They only meet up during foraging time. The greeting takes place from there, sniffing each other, and of course during that night communication over sound, it's pretty much that's what they do. And that sound they make sometimes, of course, it's all depend on what kind of interest or what they're looking at. So if there is only communication of getting to know where the others operate and everybody's okay, and then of course they were able to communicate that way, just a greeting and getting on and on. But there is a unique call sometimes when there's a help, one or two need a help because they can surround, possibly take over the kill from maybe lioness. And this seen that fight once was the one lioness against 4 hyena and all surround lionesses. But there was no winning. She fight a lot. She able to defend the kill. But she don't feed comfortably. So especially lone lioness, they're not scared of a female lioness. Good morning, Alf. I think I did well there. So welcome to the beautiful show here. So this young one you're looking at, so they're still very young age. There's no chance they will be moving around on their own. So only when they're slightly 1.5, 2 years, and that's where they would able to do their own things. But even that, around 3-4 months, they're already introduced to meat. They already know how to feed, what the meat tastes like most. But until they're 2 years, 1.5, and this is where they pretty much, from there, would be able to survive without their mother. And you see, come across one of a young male or young female hyena on her own, separately from the rest. And when you look at that, you still, because you can tell by looking at that animal if they're an adult or not. Even fully grown, usually they don't actually keep this long hair that you see on their body. When they're full growing, that's going to be all down slightly. and all you see is just a normal spot and flesh on the skin visible. So again, I'm going to stay put here. Let me send you to another guide who will show you more of a beautiful of the wilderness in Africa.
So we've just been waiting patiently for these two lionesses to can change their behavior a little bit, but I'm hoping that our patience will pay off and the two cubs that one of these lionesses has will come and join them. So thinking, if you look at the lioness that's lying flat on the ground here on the left hand side, there's absolutely no blood at all on her that I can see from this angle, on her chest or on her face. And like we said earlier, this other lioness has quite a bit of blood on her. So that makes us think that it is something small that they caught, maybe a young warthog or small warthog or something like that, that this one lioness maybe dominated over and kept this female from feeding on. So I'm wondering if those cubs are maybe still chewing away close by. Anthea, you're asking if lions help clean each other? Yes, they do sometimes. You'll see them groom themselves fairly often, but mothers try and groom along their cubs quite often because the cubs don't really know about it too much from a young age. And then if they lie really close to each other and they smell the blood on each other, then you might see them groom each other as well. And it does build the bonds between them as well, almost like baboons, a troop of baboons grooming each other as well. Have a look at this lioness. So the one that you can see now, she's the one that had all the blood on her chest and her face there. And look at that stomach, is still very, very flat, not round at all. So definitely something very small that they caught. You can see there's like the remnants of the spots on her stomach there. And I can't see from where I am and from where we're looking now that she's got swollen teats or anything like that. So I think this might be the lioness that does not have the cubs. And then the one off to the left hand side, we'll see if we can get a view of her stomach later on, and I think she might be the one with the youngsters. Because these cubs, as far as we know, they're around about 7 months old, and they will still be quite reliant on milk and solid foods at this point. So you'll see the suckle marks on the tummy. You know, the lioness is just picking her head up and looking over her shoulder there. So there's a bit of a slight breeze blowing, and I heard her, remember when I said they'll just pick their noses up to smell the breeze, and I think the wind is coming from that direction where she's looking to, and I think she might just be checking what's in that direction. The lionesses are really falling asleep. Thinking of where they were last seen, these lionesses, and the ones we saw earlier this morning, so quite a distance. So I think they were walking quite far last night, coming all the way to maybe come in and hunt in this area or so. So I think they are nice and tired from traveling a long distance last night or through the evening when it was nice and cool. See the lioness on the left here, how she was just flicking with her tail, and there's actually quite a bit of flies and so sitting on her back there. Look at that. Oh my goodness. See how she's even moving the skin a bit, trying to chase them off. Yeah, look how she's looking at us. What a beautiful lioness. Okay, but I think we are still going to stick around, and then Gerrit and I will see if those youngsters maybe pop their heads out. But for now, I think they'll just be settling down.
Well, talking about popping out, we're hoping the same will be true for the owner of that footprint right there. I'm pretty sure it's Tandi's track that is on the road. She's been giving us the runaround a little bit this morning. She's walking in all different directions, as is typical with her. She's a cat that, as we know. And then now this track is going west and going north, and so we're just trying to figure out exactly where she is. It's going to be one of those mornings, I think, with her, where she's busy and she's doing all kinds of things. And we know with Tandi that she often is an individual that will move in very different directions as well as cross roads without walking on them. So tracking has been a little bit tricky this morning. We also have very bad light. It's overcast and cloudy, which effectively acts like a massive softbox. So for those of you that have ever done photography, you know, if you have clouds, it just basically softens everything, and so the edges of the tracks are difficult to see. So we've been struggling a little bit. The good news, though, is that there are others helping us, and so we'll try and figure out roughly where she's gone. I'm pretty sure she's making her way mostly to the east, back towards where her cub was last seen, but nothing's crossing the cut line at the moment, so she must still be on our side somewhere. So it's just a matter of putting in some time and effort. Hopefully we'll get lucky.
Good luck, Tristan, finding Tandi. Good luck. So we're still in this beautiful veredan here. As you can see now, one of these, it looks like is the youngest among them all here. You still see a lot of dark colors on their body. So usually they're born black in color. Oh, there's another one. Kind of like playing touch with one another. And sometimes these slightly bigger one, they play rough to a young one, and the young one has to run back to that entrance again or come out. So this is how they keep on and on the whole entire time. And they when we're talking about when they are separate from their mother, age of that 2 years, so around 3 years they were able to look pretty much on their own, hunt, but a lot of chances they take these young ones, but the only way they have learned enough, all animals, especially carnivores or prey species, they're all aware of danger. But with hyena, since they have a very much strong ability to be able to win a kill because they have advantage of power they got, and the teeth these guys have is much stronger than a lion, and that's where they always win leopard, take the kill away from the leopard. And a lot of time these leopards feed on the ground. The majority of the time their kills get stolen or lost to a hyena or a single hyena. And when you see them do that, they're kind of like voracious in terms of feeding, and they feed very quickly, they eat very quickly. Now they're actually polite when it comes to feeding, and they're corporate feeder, which they would compete together at the same time, and only see that animal. If they kill that animal, a lot of time they have no time to suffocate, and they just grab and feed. Animal die of losing a lot of blood. So I'm gonna stay put here again while I'm sending you to another safari live.
I'm sure you all know exactly what this is. A little foamy nest of some sort, and I believe it's from a foam nest frog. Just sitting right above the edge of the water. Hopefully the water level doesn't drop too much, otherwise those little tadpoles are going to have a very bumpy ride on their way towards the water. Hi everyone, my name's Mike, behind the camera is Seb, and you've joined us at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy. And we are just sitting here at Leopard Dam, waiting to hear about anything that might be around the area. You know, some alarm calls or territorial calls. It's been a weird morning. It's very windy, beautiful and bright. It's lovely actually. It's not too cold, but very windy. So I wonder if anything is afoot. All the animals seem to be taking shelter, probably from the wind. Yes, Leopard Dam is always a gorgeous place to spend a morning. We've come to the opposite side of the dam to we normally go, just to have a different sort of view, just to see what comes down. We're going to spend a few minutes here. We've seen an elephant near, or a group of bull elephants near to the Eco Training camp, but they gave us the slip somehow, so we've left that area. We've seen some buffalo tracks as well, which we're going to go and investigate in a little while, just to make sure there was nothing at the dam. It's always my sort of thing that I like to do, is just to sit at dams for ages and I'd like to set up a little hammock, just chill out at the dam. In fact, I do it quite often. Maybe we should do our next drive just from a hammock, hey Seb?
Yes, that's great. Welcome back to the Mara. We've come across this small herd of elephants, and it seems like they're all walking towards the forest, but some of them are cooling themselves. You can see the one walking to the left of the screen has mud on the side of her body. So every day they do this, walking from the escarpment area to the forest where they go and forage, and then later on in the evening come back, because there's plenty of browsing area inside the forest, and eventually they also cross the Mara River to the other side of the game reserve. So the matriarchs always have to take them in the morning or when it's cool, because it's easy for them to eat as much as they can, because in the afternoon, as it warms up, as it gets hot, they always find a place where they can go and relax because of the young calves they have. And at this time, they will not get tired as much as compared to in the afternoon when it's too hot. Les, thank you for your question. Normally what happens, if there's too much heat, they'll always take cover, but not that we get to see here. So I would say no. Only the calves or the big or the small babies that can suffer heat stroke, but their mothers always make sure that they protect them and ensure that they don't get heat stroke. It's always nice watching elephants walking majestically as they feed, walking towards the forest. So I'm looking forward to see other big herds who will be coming. Oh, there's another herd joining. Thank you, Big James. see, they're always led by their matriarchs, and when they're walking towards this area, they feed slowly and walks in a slow motion, very good because of the calves. Like you can see, most of the families now have small calves. So I'm going, as I watch this small herd coming towards the forest, I'm going to send you over to another live location.
Well, here I am, and yeah, I have plenty of grass there, but if you look carefully, you might see a tail twitching and moving up and down. Yes, I had two lions. You can see one lioness there, heading away from me. Yeah, that is an area I cannot reach. It's a very long way. I don't know what these two girls are up to, and they're in very long grass, a very long way. Looks like they want to cross the river. I wish I could follow them, but there's nothing I can do. They are very far away from me. Apart from them, I have this beautiful scene set by the river and the banks. This is the mighty Mara River, a river that is the heartbeat of the Masai Mara, the Greater and the Mara Triangle. And right now, it's at its lowest, but still, plenty of water. Do we have sight of those girls again? Yes, they're turning to the right. See them there? Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're up to, these girls. Looks like they're new to the area. There are two of them, very young. When I say young, it's about 3 years old. They're independent. They can do their own thing, but they keep to be following, the river. From when I saw them about 20 minutes ago, they've been following the river. I don't know which pride they are from. They look to be very independent, and they are looking for a place to cross the river. So they could have either crossed the river from the other side, stayed on this side, and so they're coming, and so they want to go back. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stick here. Hopefully they can come towards me, or I can see them crossing there. Let's see what's happening in another location.
Welcome back. I can see our elephants coming slowly. Look at how majestically they're walking, and those small calves. She's the lead, and you can tell by her size and how everyone is following her. So this matriarch is the one that played a very important role in ensuring that these families are safe from predators. They make sure they take them to a very good feeding area for water, and also sometimes they take them where they can go for minerals. I like the way they walk in a single file. Daniel, thank you for your question. The difference between this is the size. Mostly savanna elephants are bigger than the forest elephant, and you find that these ones have longer tusks as compared to the forest elephants. So most of the time you find its size in variation of size. And when you come across forest elephants, you always see that their tusks are always covered with cambium because of them ripping off barks from trees. So you find that they have lots of color on their tusks. So they're specially adapted for living in savannas like this. So you find, because of the forest elephants walking through trees and bushes, their sizes are not as big compared to these savanna elephants. It's a busy morning, busy with the elephant activity. So I'm going to watch these elephants as they slowly walk into the forest as I take you over to another live location.
Well, luckily for us, we've also got a bit of elephant activity down in South Africa as well. And got a nice little herd that's just hanging around in amongst the thickets. It's where we're going to find elephants mostly today. With the wind that's blowing and the conditions that are kind of overhead, they'll enjoy rather being in denser areas where the wind doesn't affect them as much. It doesn't look like it's a huge herd. It's difficult though with the density of the bush where we are right now, so not 100% sure how many are with us, but it's a decent sized grouping of individuals, and they are nice and relaxed, which is always a good thing. Sometimes when it's windy like this, you'll find that ellies can be a little on the sort of shy side. They just kind of on edge because of the wind and then the car noise, and they just don't really like it very much, and you often find that they move around quite a bit when it's like this. So it's nice to see them fairly relaxed, and they're just ambling along today. They don't have to worry so much about moving towards water points and shaded areas. It's much, much, much cooler than it has been. Like I say, there's a wind that's blowing, there's no sun that's out, and so it's the perfect conditions for them just to be slowly feeding and not having to worry about those other factors. The good thing about that also is that they're able to feed in areas that maybe sometimes they wouldn't spend as much time. When it's hot and sunny, this is an easier way to feed in the more open kind of areas. And they'll be able to kind of find the food that they maybe like, that they haven't been finding along the drainage lines during the heat. I think it was Miguel. Are there elephants in every African country? No. There's not elephants in every African country. There's a couple of countries, particularly the northern parts of Africa, the Sahara Desert. You do not get any elephants that roam those deserts. It's too harsh an environment for them. They're an animal that depends too heavily on food and water, and so up in the Sahara it's just not enough. There are desert-adapted elephants, though, that are in Namibia, and they've figured ways out of surviving. And then obviously you've got most of sub-Saharan Africa does have ellies in it in some form or another. Unfortunately, though, a lot of the countries that historically did have elephants are losing them at a rate of knots, and are starting to find fewer and fewer elephants occurring, particularly in kind of West Africa, as well as in Northeast Africa, as well as a lot of elephant poaching that's taken place there, and huge amounts of ranges that have been decreased due to human habitation and all kinds of other things. So they are widespread through Africa, but they're not as widespread as they used to be. Like I say, many countries unfortunately have a falling elephant population rather than a growing one, which is always a sad thing. These guys, because of the space that they occupy and the amount of space that they need in order to survive, they really do incur the wrath of people. They are hugely destructive to crops and things like that. And so if people are farming anywhere near elephants, generally you're getting huge amounts of elephant wild and human conflict, which leads to obviously generally the elephants losing that battle in many, many respects. And I mean, it's a very complicated issue, and a lot of people will be, saying, well, how can somebody kill an elephant? But you must understand that some of these people live in places where they're subsistence farmers, so they're in a situation where they've got to try and find their own food or grow their own food, and elephants come in and they destroy that entire crop, which means that their family doesn't eat, or they're in a situation where they're growing just to be able to make enough money to put their kids through school and to feed themselves, and again elephants come through and destroy it. And so what that often means is that people stand guard at night over their crops and they try and chase the elephants away, which often leads to deaths within the community. And as soon as people start dying as well as losing their food, you can understand then why the conflict becomes the way it does, and elephants generally are then persecuted for it. everybody that sits and says that people shouldn't do those things, like I say, when you've had a family member that's been killed by an elephant, you've lost everything that sustains your family. It starts to become a very different conversation that you're having. It's not to say that an elephant should be killed. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that it's a lot more complex than what people often put it down to, and people are often very quick to judge those that are in that situation. And it's easy to do that when you can go down to a grocery store and go and buy whatever you want. And your family is safe behind brick walls and you don't need to worry. It's a very different thing altogether when you're on the front line facing it. And in fact, there's actually a really, really cool documentary that was released recently called Rise of the Matriarch that covers this whole thing. And it's really interesting just to see it from all the different sides, because they, basically speak to conservationists as well as everything else now. Here you got ants on the marula tree. Looks like a pugnacious ant that is busy moving about. The ants have become very active over the course of the last few days or few weeks since the rains have come. They're busy as ever, seeing a lot of their nests being built and raised out of the ground. And just goes to show sometimes you've got to look around and not just focus on the bigger things, because while there are elephants here, there's also little insects that are moving around, which are just as fascinating to watch and have just as complex social structure as what the Yelis do in many respects. There's an elephant that's just joined us behind us. Hello. Didn't know that this guy was actually there. I thought he had moved on, but he's kind of standing behind where we are at the moment. It should be coming a little bit closer now. Wagging Tail Farm, I think, is the name, but I didn't hear exactly. You're asking about all elephants, do they go into must at the same time? No, is the answer to that. All Ellies are going to go into must at different points. If all of them went in at the same time, it would cause absolute havoc because it's a massive ramp up in their testosterone. And that means that, they start to become a little bit feisty with one another. And if every single one was in that condition, you would end up with elephants really battering each other quite a lot. And the poor females would be absolutely hassled by these males. And so what you find is it's quite staggered and quite sort of distributed throughout the year. You can pretty much find an elephant bull in must pretty much 12 months of the year across a population, especially a population size like we have here in Kruger. We've got, there's no official number on them at the moment, but we've got what's believed to be sort of closer towards 18,000 elephants in this population. And so, if you take a sample of all of those, you're pretty much guaranteed to see one or two that have in must at any one time, but they don't all do it at the same time, no. It would just be very, 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 very bad time for the females if that was the case. But our Ellies are slowly disappearing behind us and into deeper, thicker bush. So we're not going to off-road behind them because we're just going to end up chasing them and making them irritable. So we'll leave them and carry on and keep looking for our leopards.
Well, from elephants, I have the hippopotamus, or the river horse, as the Greek called it. It's got no comparison or relationship to the horses. It's more closely related to the pigs, whales, and dolphins. According to San Diego Zoo, that is what it is related to. Third largest mammal here in Africa after elephant, white rhino, it is hippo. It is very true, and they stay in groups called pods, school of bloats, and many more names are named after them. An animal that is naturally very aggressive and very respected here in Africa. They cause more deaths than any other animal in Africa because of their anger. can weigh up to 2 tons and can run up to 30 kilometers an hour. It looks like we've had a gate crashing of these beautiful zebras. Look at this. I didn't expect them. I didn't see them. I don't know where they came from. Are they going to give me another show? I was just looking at the hippos. The hippos are in shock. You can tell there was a lot of movement, at the hippo pond. There was a rearrangement of the sitting. They were very, very restful, and now you can see how alert they are. All their ears have popped up. Their senses have been triggered, and they're looking at the giraffes. Yeah, the hippos live up to 40 years, and they have a pod of hippo where there is one male who is the main guy. He tolerates others. They can be up to 30 members in small pods, and they have been known to reach up to 100 in really bigger, larger pods. An animal that spent almost 16 hours of its day in the water, and only very few hours can venture out up to around 7 kilometers out of water in search of grazing. Yes, and over here they have no shortage of that, so I don't think they're gonna walk 7 kilometers. It might get interesting if the giraffes decide to come down and cross. This is what I'm just hoping, but I don't know. These are the Maasai giraffes, and they all look like these are 3 males, quite young. Well, let me take you to another live location. I'll sit here and see what unfolds.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala. And it's been a bit of a slow start this morning. And on slow, here's a beautiful leopard tortoise. And you can see the back of its shell there. It is kind of moving into the bush there. But how's the pattern on its shell? I mean, you can see quite clearly how and or why it gets its name, the leopard tortoise. This is a reasonably big one, and just moving through, they've probably been sleeping for the past few months, like 6 or 7 months. You'll find them during the dry times, finding a place to kind of go into a state of dormancy, almost like hibernating, and they'll spend a few months sleeping, waiting for the rains. So we had a bit of rain a couple of weeks ago, and the reason that they come out when it's raining is they have to refill this little sack that they have inside them where they store water for those long periods, called a bursa sack. And when that bursa sack starts to deplete or run out, they'll have to refill it with the rain that comes. I mean, you see it moving through all the grass there. It also relies on the rain to provide new growth to the grass, to flowers, and small leaves from small little trees that are starting to grow. And that's what this leopard tortoise will feed on. Unlike regular leopards, I mean, this morning we are driving along the riverbed now, particularly looking for leopards. And even, I mean, a leopard tortoise like this, maybe not a big one like this, but you'll see leopards even trying to eat tortoises like this. The smaller ones where their shells aren't quite as developed and hard yet, with a strong set of jaws, maybe a set of hyenas or strong lions will be able to break through that shell, getting into it. Even ground hornbills will take their big strong beaks and kind of peck into the shell to try and get the tortoise out of it. But that shell, you can see, it's quite big and strong, and it's like having a mobile home with you. Whenever you feel a little bit threatened, or whenever you're feeling a bit threatened, you just pop back in there, and hopefully, if you're big enough and strong enough, you will be protected. I'm going to send you to another live location while we continue along the road here looking for some other kinds of leopards.
Well, we didn't get very far on our search for these buffaloes before we came across another very strange creature This, I'm pretty sure, is a serrated hinged terrapin, and weirdly, it's out of the water. So I can only imagine that this terrapin must have been in a mud wallow somewhere that's now drying up, and it decided to try and find itself, well, get itself towards a dam or a waterhole of some sort. Look at it go, though. It's pretty fast as far as terrapins go. They're obviously much better in the water than they are on land, but this one seems to be doing well at both. So we almost ran this thing over. I was actually just traveling along, and then we had to swerve a little bit for it. I'm glad to see that it's uninjured. And it's, making its way quickly towards a drainage line where there's some green vegetation, probably some shade. Now, these animals do live for long periods out of water, especially during wintertime when all the water dries up. They'll go and bury themselves in the leaf litter underneath a thicket, and where they can stay moist and cool until the next rains come along and fill up the water holes nearby. I'm glad to see this one is doing well and missioning about. These things do get eaten by lots of different things, from the big cats to hyenas. I've even seen things like ground hornbills catching them, southern ground hornbills. And see there, it's found itself in a nice thick clump of grass where it can probably feel a lot safer. Now, these are very important animals not to touch, if I'm honest. If we touch a terrapin or a tortoise out of water like that, well, tortoises don't live in water, but anyway, if you touch these animals, they can use a defensive mechanism where they squirt you with very foul-smelling water from a bursa sac inside the anal cavity, which is really, really stinky, smelly stuff. And if it gets on you, you're going to smell for days. You really can't wash it out. It's really, really horrible. So we never, ever touch tortoises or terrapins if you can avoid it. However, on a road like this, it's fine. But if it was a main road, a tar road, which was lots of traffic, you might be worth moving it away, as long as it's not too dry and it can replenish that water that it might then spray on you. But you want to save its life, so you just move it off the road. But anyway, I'm glad to see this one has found itself in a little safe spot. And we'll continue on our journey to see if we can find the buffaloes we're looking for. Actually, interestingly, when we were leaving the dam, we saw tracks of a leopard and maybe some youngsters. So we're also looking out for any fresher signs. I'm not sure how fresh those were, but once again, you never know. The bush is a crazy place. Anything can happen.
We lost these two lionesses just briefly for a moment as they saw some wildebeest coming past, and they immediately went into stalking mode. So that just even reaffirms and reestablishes the thought that whatever they caught earlier and were eating earlier, that it was very, very small and that they are still very hungry. But they've come back down to the dry riverbed that we are sitting in, and have come and just lie down in the shade again. See this lioness, she's got a bit of a fuller belly, and could see like that her teeth hanging a bit, so I think she might actually be a little bit pregnant. Then we know that one of the lionesses from this pride, and I think it's this particular individual, was actually mating with the male lions not too long ago. You see the flicking of the ears every now and then, and tail also flicking away every now and then. There's quite a bit of flies that's sitting on them, so it's all well and done for them to come into this dry riverbed and get out of the sun, but there's not a lot of wind that will chase the insects away. Look at the biting flies there, those jackal flies sitting on the side there. Ed, you are asking if lions also get hairballs like domestic cats. I think all the big cats and wild cats also get hairballs, like you said, from grooming. They'll get it, but also from eating hair from the animals that they'll hunt also. So they'll often get hair, but I think their stomachs are also a little bit more adapted to even digest some of the hair. So I think most of the hairballs that they do get is from grooming. I look at the spots that's on the back of her legs there. So when she was a very young cub, for the first few months of her life, she would have been hidden away in a den site. Maybe some long grass, especially in this particular area, very long grass in some sections, or maybe a dry riverbed, and her whole body would have been covered in those spots, and those spots would have been way more prominent. And then as she's getting older, they're slowly fading away. So those are just the remnants of those spots that they have when they are very, very small cubs. Really falling asleep. Where this morning was nice and chilly, and it wasn't too cold, but now it's heating up quite a bit. Dr. Rocky Balbo, you're asking if lions get allergies like humans do. I don't think they get it in the same sense as we do. I think they are quite hardy animals, and I've never heard of them getting any allergies. You might see them sneeze every now and then. I guess pollen and so that's in the air might have the same effect to them as it has to us. So when it comes to that, they might have a bit of an allergy, maybe to some dust in their nose or something like that. But allergic reactions to things that us humans get, I don't think they do the same. If we would have driven here earlier, we would have driven almost right into these lionesses as they are sleeping right next to the roads. We just standing off to the side. But I think what we'll do is see if we can reposition a little bit and stick around and see what these lions get up to.
Well, we stuck around with our Ellies because we came out onto the road and they started to kind of come towards the road, and so we didn't have to actually follow them through the thicket, which meant that we could at least get a decent view of them. And you can see this one is eating a tree that for all of us would be impossible to even grab. It's quite interesting watching them feeding off these sharp, thorny trees. It's busy devouring a buffalo thorn, which has got really tasty leaves. And the size of the trunk and kind of thickness of the skin allows them, particularly with the buffalo thorn, to deal with it. While buffalo thorns have very sharp thorns, the thorns themselves are actually quite pliable and with a little bit of force can be kind of crushed down a little bit. But you see how it basically takes the branch, uses the tusk to break it, and then from there it gets placed into the palate where there's these massive grinding teeth, and those grinding teeth are able to actually squash down the thorns. Now, the reason why it's not just using its trunk is more than strong enough to pull most of those branches, and it's using its tusk to leverage rather, because when it pulls that branch with the trunk, it's just going to dislodge those thorns and embed them into the trunk. But if it holds the branch in one place and uses the tusk to actually leverage, then you're not getting that same pulling effect, and those hooked thorns are not digging into the elephant's trunk. It's amazing to see how clever they are when they feed off these thorn trees. I always love watching them go about their business. It's super interesting. What you'll find though is that eventually he's going to stop feeding off this because of the tannins that are going to develop in this particular plant. They have quite tanninous berries that form on them, but the leaves themselves, once it's under attack like this, start to produce huge amounts of tannins that come through, and eventually you'll find that the leaves start to take on a more bitter taste, and that's when they start to leave it alone before the tree is absolutely destroyed. He's eaten quite a lot of it already. There's not exactly that much left of it. So this poor buffalo thorn is going to have a very, very bad start to its day at this stage. But you see how that tusk works? Amazing, isn't it? So the trunk is not actually being ripped through those thorns. It's just holding in one spot, and the tusk is actually the one that's doing all the work. Very, 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 very cool. Also notice how his diet mixes. This time of the year, they have a very varied diet. It's not quite the time where they go heavily onto grass just yet, because the grasses haven't grown enough. While there is green grass, it's not huge, long bits of it. And so you'll find that at this point, they're probably in a pretty even split between grasses, vegetation, roots, and bark. Or when I say vegetation, I mean leaves. Whereas as we start to head deeper into summer, that's going to start to become more 60% of grass, and then the rest, and sometimes even as much as 70% will be grasses. And then in winter, obviously, the grass is pretty much negligible. They're hardly eating it. In winter, it's just taking up space. It's not really actually providing much. Dear watcher, you're asking about elephant skins and how thick they are. So it depends on where on the body we're talking. But it's not as thick as everybody thinks it is. Elephant skin, probably in places, will be about an inch thick throughout. Whereas, like something like a hippo has actually got a thicker skin than what an ellie does. But it's still thick enough. It's resilient enough to take quite a pounding. On the trunk itself, those ridges on the inside, the skin is actually not as thick as people think it is, but it's very, very tough. It's like if you were to walk around barefoot over gravel every single day of your life, you'll start to see that your feet will almost callous a little bit. And it's the same thing with their trunks and their feet, is the amount of use that they put it through. It hardens that skin a little bit, and while it's not as thick as one would think, it's still very, very, very much able to deal with the rigors of elephant life, which is feeding off thorn trees and walking over all kinds of things that are out in the bush. He's the most relaxed guy. The rest of the herd is long gone. He's the only one that's left. Are you going to come say hello to us? Or are you just eating? Fairly easy to recognize him going forward. He's got this nice little cut out of his ear. It's like a little C shape that you can see over there with a little hole above it. So that would be something that you'd be able to recognize him by. You'll notice that hole will actually get bigger as he gets older and his ear grows, which is quite interesting. Okay, well, I think we'll probably carry on. These guys, like I say, most of the herd is crossed. It's just him that's here. We're going to try to see what else we can find.
These lionesses haven't moved much since you've been with us last. The only difference is this lioness on the right hand side is just lied on her side there. So when they lie on their how do you say it, on their legs basically, they are not settling down just yet, but when they lie flat onto their sides like this, they're really settling in for a nice sleep throughout and a rest throughout the day. There you can see the stomach of this lioness. Yeah, remember how I said we think that she might be pregnant, so her stomach is nice and full, even though she hasn't eaten anything recently. Look there, you can see the one teeth there is also nice and big, so I think she's like in the early or middle stages of her pregnancy. So maybe in the next month and a half or month or so, we might have some new cubs that have joined this pride. It's quite exciting. We'll keep an eye on her and monitor her, and we'll see where she hangs around. When she starts leaving the rest of the pride and she starts moving around by herself, then she might be starting to scout out an area to have her cubs. Interesting how they move away, even though they are pride animals and the animals that love to be around other lions. She will move away from the pride to go have a cub somewhere else and keep them away until they're strong enough to move around with the pride. And this lioness, just looking, will keep an eye on her. One of the identifying features of her, if you look at her ear there, perfectly how she's lying at the moment, you can actually see she's got a little bit of a notch there in her ear. A very easy way to identify her. But for now, I think we are going to maybe see if we can keep on driving. I don't think these lionesses are going to go anywhere else. And Gerrit and I are going to see if we can find some other animals.
We are sitting with a group of animals. There's some zebras, impalas, and there was a giraffe as well. And weirdly enough, there's a lot of strange energy here. I mean, first of all, they all ran across the road, and then there was lots of the zebras were, honking and cartwheeling and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So I wondered if there was maybe a predator causing some trouble. But I actually now think that it might be a young stallion that's trying to take over a group, or maybe a bunch of stallions. These look like a lot of young stallions to me, and a lot of male impala as well. So it's just a lot of testosterone in the air. They're quite far from the road, so we can't get any closer, unfortunately. But it was just very strange. Really, really wondered what was going on. And we often see aggregations of animals like this because of, the good feeding that is around now. And it's quite thick, the environment, so the animals are all sort of coming together. Just ahead of us, there's a whole bunch more young male impalas that are just starting to come out across the road here. As you can see there, lots and lots of them sort of amongst these trees and bushes, all heading in. So there's a group of male impalas in this area of about 100. Well, we've seen about 100 before, so just quite a large group for male impalas. And they've obviously congregated now because there's no females to fight over. And so they're all just quite happily living together, using each other as a defense mechanism. The more animals there are, the more eyes and ears there are to see and hear danger. Anyway, they're all heading sort of in the direction of Leopard Dam, although it's very far away, so I don't think they're going to get there any time during this morning's game drive. But maybe this afternoon, when it's nice and hot, all these animals will be around the waterholes. Waterholes are great places to be on these hot summer days, especially when there hasn't been rain for a little while. They're all looking so sleek and gorgeous. Lots and lots of shiny coats from all the fresh green vegetation that they're eating. And it is very green. I mean, a couple of months ago, you would have been able to see all these impalas perfectly clearly. And now they're sort of amongst the bushes, as you can just see. They're almost invisible. And that goes just the same for the predators. Of course, it's very, very difficult to spot predators as well. So that's another reason why all these impalas will be together like this. See this one here, nice big ram. Heading into the dappled shade of these sickle bushes and sandpaper raisins. Just Cal, how do I tell an impala apart from a gazelle? Well, that's a tough one, to be honest. Well, impalas are antelopes, and gazelles are also sort of very similar in their body shape. I think gazelles are technically a little bit shorter and smaller in stature. I'm not sure that I know too much more about the differences between gazelles and impala. We don't really get too many gazelles here. I think the closest gazelle to this area would be something like a springbok. But I know that there's Thompson's gazelles up in East Africa, where I've spent a little bit of time. I think it might be something to do with their body size and maybe even some glands along their body. I know that a lot of gazelles can raise up the fur on their backs, and there's a lot of glandular skin underneath there. But it would be an interesting one for me to research, actually. Just Cal, I'll have to get back to you on that one. They are very similar, though, all of them. I know most of the gazelle are smaller than impala. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just to do with the size. Although then a duiker would technically be a gazelle, which I don't think it is. It's not. A duiker is definitely an antelope. Maybe it's just a name. I'm not sure. Oh, always learning every single day. It'll be an interesting one to check up. So you see those impalas looking over to the left there? There's a lot more impalas starting to run into the bushes just opposite the road here. There they go. So just slowly but surely more and more of the impalas are joining them. Once one moves, they must all move. It's a herd mentality. It's a defense mechanism. Any of these impalas left alone is going to be an easy meal, especially on a windy day like today. So let's cross our fingers and hope that they're all safe and sound.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Our trekking has paid off. Not exactly how we thought it would actually work out. We have found members of the Southern Pride here at a watering hole, but the female with the cubs that we were following is not the one we found here. This female has older cubs, slightly older than the ones we were hoping to find, but nonetheless, baby life is baby life. All three of them look like they're suckling at current. Mom just nursing there. Dear watcher, could you repeat the question there for me? Gestation for lion. So if you look at cats, your lion's gestation period is about 110 days. That's just a little bit over 3 months. If you look at the gestation, and animals like this don't really have a season to give birth. They can give birth any time of the year, so it's all year round that they could be breeding, but gestation would be roughly a little bit over 3 months, varying on each individual, obviously, but you're looking at the average of about 110 days gestation. And then when these cubs are born, they would be born blind, and then from then they would be put in a den, and a den site could be anything where it could be a well, different area. We have the white-bearded gnu, and these are all the breeding herd. They look very happy. Look at them, wagging their tails and enjoying the morning the morning weather. Looks like they were very safe during the night, so there's nothing to worry about. The wildebeest is an annual migrator coming here for a couple of months and then heading back to the Serengeti. And during the migration, we normally have quite a good number of them, numbering up to almost, 1.5 million of wildebeest. It's called the white-bearded gnu. Of course, it is one species. We have the blue wildebeest, the white-bearded. They're all Connochetes taurinus, but they are subspecies found in different areas. Here it is the white-bearded that is found here, and all these are heading towards the south. Where they are, they seem to be not making any movement. They're just milling around. Quite a good number of them, big herds. They're not supposed to be here, but they are here. So it means that the migration is not very well defined on what the timeline where they migrate, back and forth. You can see here they're heading. The ones closer to me are heading left, and then the other farthest there, they're heading to the right. It is typical for them to have these confused movements while they're here. There's no defined direction. They just move around. We haven't seen them really close across the river, close to where we are, but I understand that some other crossings have been happening quite a long ways. We cannot get there. So there has been crossings, so it means the migration is still on. The trees you see back there are desert dates. It is the most common tree here in the triangle, the Mara Triangle. Remember, the Mara Triangle is the other half of the Greater Mara. It's only about 750 square kilometers, and the Great Tamara is much larger. Here we have also zebra, the butchers. They do go together with the wildebeest, and it is said that the zebra is not a choosy grazer, so they feed on the top part and the coarse part of the grass, whereas the wildebeest feed on the lesser, softer part, the seeds and the leaves. But going together, they help one another. We don't have very many zebra at the moment. They normally lead in the migration, so they can feed on the top part of the grass, which is highly nutritious. It's mainly the red oat grass that is very, very dominant grass, and it's related to the oat family, so it's highly, highly nutritious. And you can tell it is the main reason why these wildebeest come up here, because it's full of nutrition. And so when they feed on it, they will, come into season, and many will, breed while they're here. It's such a beautiful sight. I could stay here all day, but let's take you to another live safari vehicle.
Back to the thought of where we were before we went to the other place there. I was still talking about den sites and how these cubs would be being born blind, and how the female or the mother would use previous areas that had been dug by things like your aardvark or porcupines or so on, and they would just make it to their specifications and make that into a den site. Sometimes even old termite mound that have collapsed, that those are kind of things these animals will use as bearers. Looks like they finished suckling there, so this looks like this is where they're probably going to spend a bit of the day. It's starting to warm up a little bit, finding shade, and being around a watering hole is always a good thing. It means food can come their way. Honey-balled lion cubs are not, at this age, would not be too old to suckle. So if you're looking at how old lion cubs would actually stop suckling, that would be at around about a year. They would be introduced to meat at an age like this, but they would still have to supplement by suckling. And then towards a year old, that's when they would actually stop suckling completely and depend on meat. And then they get into their sub-adulthood, and then they are big lions. So it's stage by stage that it happens. Once the teeth are a little bit big, and when they suckle, they start hurting mom, they would start getting a bit of discipline, saying, you guys are a little bit too old now to be suckling, you're hurting moms. And they start getting the idea that they should stop suckling. The other thing that could lead to them stopping to suckle very early, before a year or so, is if the female is being courted and the cubs get almost sidestepped, that she goes back into oestrus. Obviously, with the change of hormone in her body, that would actually make her body stop producing milk, so that she can actually fall into heat or into oestrus. And those are some of the things that could make a female stop lactating.
We are literally a couple of 100 meters, maybe not even 200 meters away from those lionesses, and there's a herd of buffalo that's slowly but surely heading in that direction. I think they are trying to head towards the similar dry riverbed that the lions are lying in. So you see if they can get to some shade there. See, there's quite a few youngsters in this herd of buffalo around here, but the lions on Phinda are not really known for going for buffalo. They do hunt them every now and then, but this area being so dense and quite green, there's lots of other animals for them to hunt that are much easier to take down. See the youngster there. And all these buffalo are not really feeding. They are just standing around for now, and I think they all want to settle down and lie down and chew the cud for a bit. But I think the way that the wind is blowing, they can maybe pick up the scent of those lions close by. So I wonder if they are a little bit nervous to go into the denser area. See that one licking its lips. Haven't seen any big bulls in this herd of buffalo either. Looks like mostly females that are just hanging around here. We actually spotted these buffalo before we saw the lions, and then just saw the little yellow patches in the dry riverbed close to them. They keep on, there's quite a few of them that keeps on looking towards the lions there. Jenny, you're asking if buffalo have matriarchs. I think buffalo are more dominated by the bulls, not by females, so they do not have a matriarchal system. I guess the older females might move ahead of the younger females or so, but it's more the bulls that have a hierarchy between all of them. So you might have quite a few dominant bulls in the herd, and then they kind of lead the herd and spread out around the herd or so. But in the sense of the older females maybe deciding where the herd can go. In that sense, I think they maybe you can say they've got like a bit of a matriarchal system. Might just hear another vehicle come past. See these buffalo all just looking in that direction. You can just see those two. There's a few females on the left hand. They keep on looking. Looking in the direction of those lionesses, but I think for now we're going to just settle down here and keep an eye on these buffalo. Maybe they'll move towards the lions.
Well, we are settling down with this elephant. It's busy feeding on the very softest, juiciest grass that I think I've ever seen. And now it's moving off towards the drainage line. There's a couple more elephants, well, at least one more elephant that we can hear just breaking branches in the drainage line just behind this elephant. It's nice and windy and cool, and I think they've been in the drainage line to protect themselves from this wind, but now coming out into the open beautifully for us. We actually saw a few impalas in this clearing, and that's what I was heading towards, and then they sort of decided to scamper off. So we decided to turn around, and then it was an elephant, which is great. So this is a young bull. I don't suppose this elephant is much more than about 20 years old. It's not very, very big. He's been at the water hole yesterday, I think, because his tusks look very nice and white and clean. You can see how delicately it's just plucking at all the fresh green growth on these. Well, that's a sickle bush. It's a very thorny and painfully spiky branch. You can see how when it puts it in its mouth so tenderly, just chewing away at those soft, fresh green growths. You can really see the wind pumping through here. I think it's going to die down a little bit later, but for now it's keeping it nice and cool. It's supposed to be an incredibly warm day, so I'm really hoping that a lot of animals come down to the waterhole. Look at that nice fresh green grass, leaves. Goodness gracious me, my grasp of the English language has disappeared. Look at that elephant's trunk. I love the way they extend and they shorten. It's like a concertina. A bad monkey, I mean, their feet are very sensitive. There's no doubt about that. I don't know if they're ticklish, so to speak, but they're definitely very, very sensitive. Now, this elephant's actually got its foot up like that. It was holding its foot up a little bit. Now, they've got these fleshy, fatty pads at the bottom of their feet, which are really, really good at picking up vibrations. And so some of the sounds elephants make are called infrasounds. And that is so deep that it's able to travel long distances, and we can't hear it. So that's what elephants are using their feet for. So if they're so sensitive to vibrations, I suppose they probably are a little bit ticklish as well. They certainly don't like it when they've got spikes in their feet or sharp rocks. You see them often sort of rubbing their feet on logs and things to try and dislodge, uncomfortable little things. And I mean, they walk around the bush all the time, and they haven't got the greatest eyesight, especially for tiny little things hidden amongst the grass. So they must stand on quite a few thorns. This elephant's facing right towards us. It's so nice when the elephants allow us to be with them like this, and they don't have any problems with us being around. Feeding in this gorgeous open clearing. So this is called zebra clearings. Oh, hello. You coming to say hi? Hello, Mr. Elephant. Look at his ears. You see he's got a few chips out of his ears. Hello, Elephant. That's close enough. Thank you very much. Hello. Yes, we are here. Yes, that's right. He's just coming to investigate us. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's right. Oh, got a bit of a fright there. Well, we're sitting in the open clearing. Don't pretend like you didn't see us standing here. Don't pretend like you didn't notice us. I think you just want a bit of company. Are you being bullied by the other elephants? But you're so pretty. Oh, maybe we're oh, you know what? We've parked right next to a fallen tree. And so this tree probably has some nice fresh green grass underneath that this elephant would like to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move out of the way in a moment so that the elephant can get to the grass and we won't be disturbing him.
Well, we are also moving, and you might be noticing off-roading, and that's because, well, we've had some luck. Some of you are going to be very excited as to who we've had luck with, because just in front of me here, which I'm going to hopefully get a view of shortly, just give me 2 seconds to get through this little thicket. No, he's going to come right behind us rather than in front like he was walking, but there is Tingana that is moving through the thicket behind me at the moment. Of course, he would have gone that direction. I was hoping he was going to go forward because he was walking in that way, but now he's crossed directly behind me. So I'll try and see if we can get a bit of a better view of him. It's going to be here because it gets quite thick where he's going. But nice to see the old Duke. It's always good when he's around and we can get decent sightings of him. I know a lot of you are probably interested where he is. So to give you an idea, he is currently just on the eastern side of Djuma, the boundary of Djuma and Torchwood. So he's just inside Torchwood, moving kind of southwards. And to give you an idea of how far that is from where we had him the other day, it's probably a good, I would say, 15 kilometers. So he's moved a long way, but he's looking really good. He's kind of walked off his little belly that he had when we saw him last at that dam where he was sleeping. He's marched his way through and has kind of lost his little tummy. You can see it's a little bit saggy there, and so could probably do with another meal, but otherwise looking really, really good. He's in no way looking like his age, and he's still strutting his stuff. Interestingly enough, though, not marking territory. Haven't seen him scent mark a single bush, which is, not normal for a male leopard on a big territorial patrol like this. They would normally be marking everywhere they were going, particularly when they start to cross roads, and he's not doing that. So I suspect that our friend is not, unfortunately, as territorial as he once was. I suspect that he is unfortunately lost his kind of most territorial sort of behavior, and it's more kind of nomadic move. He might be on the hunt, though. Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's just odd. Generally, you see with leopards when they cross these roads, they scent mark a bush somewhere just to send a very, very clear message. All right, well, we'll continue to follow him. Hopefully he'll lead us to something of interest.
Welcome back. The cubs are still taking a bit of a nap here and there, but also being very alert of the situation around them. Still very inquisitive. Getting interest from even little birds that are flying in. Anything that moves, they get so inquisitive about it. Obviously, Mom couldn't be bothered taking a rest there. Would lionesses continuously have babies endlessly? It's a very good question. I would give you, just based on what I've seen as through the years of my guiding, it depends on what the social status of that female would be. And I would give you examples here. There was a pride that I was very attached to, and there was a female in this pride that was a matriarch of the pride, and as she became the matriarch of this pride, she actually stopped being mated with, or stopped falling into oestrus and just concentrating in taking care of the rest of the pride. It was a pride that consisted of her, two of her daughters, and some cousins. So it was a relatively big pride, and that's why she actually started doing what she did and concentrating on more of hunting and teaching the younger cubs and the younger females in that pride to hunt. So things like responsibility and social statuses with a particular animal would make such decisions for them, or make them make those decisions. So yes, lions from about 2.5 years, 3 years, females, they would start conceiving or having to be mated with, and then from there, you're looking at about every year or so, or maybe just pushing it just over a year, they would start having cubs in that kind of a sequence. But also things like availability of food in the area also makes them decide on things like that. So sometimes a pride is not successful with cubs because of not being able to actually nourish those cubs, and all those factors come into play. So it's a very, very good question there. But there's a lot of things that could throw a spanner in the works. we'll continue sticking with these guys and see what they are up to. Over to the next beautiful property in Africa.
Well, here I am with another very interesting, antelope that is a migratory antelope, but loves sitting on tall mounds like it is there. And they are the self-proclaimed watchmen over everybody else. It's typical for the topi to do that. And here there is quite a good number of them, including young ones. So these are migrating herds. I'll just go quiet for a minute so you can hear the voices of the topis and wildebeest. Of course, as always, when I say listen to them, they go shut. I don't blame them. Maybe it's the correct timing for me. Well, the topis do migrate together with the zebra and wildebeest, and they are also in very huge numbers of up to 20 and above, when migrating. When it's up there like that, most of the animals around it are assured there is no predator around because it's got amazing eyesight, the topi. This time of the year, from September, October, November, they are giving birth. As you can see, there's lots of young ones. Those were born, they're only about a month or maybe a few weeks, usually that tawny color, and then from the age of about 3 to 6 months, they start getting the dark markings on their back legs and their forelegs. Yes, it's an antelope that weighs from 150 to around 200 kilos, and it's a pure grazer. Yeah, spending most of its time, feeding and, scratching itself. As you can see, that's mostly what happens during the day. They go in good groups of, breeding herds like this one here. Sasikasi, you want to know how many white-bearded gnu are there in the Masai Mara? Well, there's never an exact number. I will not lie to you that, there are 346,078, something like that. I will never lie to you, but each time it differs. Right now, majority of the wildebeest have headed back, and maybe I would just guess, where I am, by looking, I might be not 100% how many there are, but a good here, where I am, there's an easy 50,000 because they're all over. I cannot see the other side of the ridge. I cannot see behind me, but there is a good number, 50,000 or so. So there is still a good number, but, you can never say, exactly how many are there in the Mara because they're always in and out. You can only say maybe in a specific area. The whole of this morning I was driving, there was quite a few, but I have come to the main area where there's plenty. And here, there is that number. I just gave you Sasi. That is, what I would tell you. But during the height of the migration, when we have what we call the body, the body is the main, big numbers. When they arrive here, we have the head, which is the first few that make a breakthrough to come here. And usually it's a very exciting time. All the guides, all the hotels are very excited to see them because we know it's our high season. Then they're here. Those usually range from about 50 to 100,000, 200,000. And then we see the body, and that is almost 1 million of them. They're here. It's a combination of zebras, wildebeest, topis, eland, and Thompson's gazelle, Grant's gazelle. That's when we see, over million wildebeest, and then the rest are just over in about 2 million. So we call it the body. And then the tail is when, at the border they see just a few trickling in. It means that they have reached deeper Mara. And then it works the same. It's the same principle. When they head back, there is the head that heads out, and then the body, and then the tail. These ones here, I would still say we have the tail, which is quite a good number. Look at this top piece. It looks like they are grazing in unison. It's rare to come across this kind of herd because Topi is restricted to only a very few parks. The Serengeti, the Mara is the main home range, the main core where you find them, and this is quite a good number of them here. Usually males will maintain a small territory where they will gather a few females and mate with them, but it's not very long, it's not prolonged. Usually the territory might only last a few days. I'm gonna head on and let me take you to another live safari vehicle.
Welcome to the other side of the Mara, and here we have a lone bull with lots of wildebeest around this area. This place was a place where I could come every day and find big herds of wildebeest. The grass was about 1 meter tall, but look at now. It's almost dust. But they're also enjoying because after the rains, you can see there's some patches where it's so green. That fresh shoot is what they're enjoying, and you can see some of them are relaxed, while some of them are still grazing. And way over in the background, that is Serengeti, and that's where most of them will be heading. Thank you so much for your question. That is something that I've always heard of, but I think that is a myth because when elephants come, they hardly come across, rats or mice often. But I wouldn't say they're afraid. But sometimes they can be spooked by those little creatures, especially when, let's say, for example, the elephant is grabbing some grass. They can be spooked, but they're not really afraid of them. That big bull is enjoying a plant called the Sodom apple, or we can call it Ntulele in the local Maasai language, or solanum. So the fresh solanum that have growing, this elephant is really much enjoying. But the wildebeest don't eat that because the elephant is a browser and a grazer. They're the ones that can eat that. He's a lone bull, sure. He's been walking by himself for a long time, and I'm sure maybe somewhere around here there might be some other younger bulls. He'll be walking towards where there's some other elephant herds, maybe joining them in the swamp. But most of the time you find bulls will always be alone by themselves.
Welcome back, everybody. So we've managed to find a beautiful dazzle of zebra just feeding on the very short, very new grass. There's quite a lot of them around here. Look how its head's right down there, picking particularly the new shoots. That stripe pattern is always beautiful, and that mane, look how perfect. It looks like it's just come from the hairdresser. Little scratch. It's quite an interesting scene here as well. I mean, there are the zebras in the foreground here. Then in the background there are a couple of baboons in the tree. You can see the one up right at the top, kind of like acting like a sentry. Really good vantage point for that baboon to have a look around. Is he hopping around? I'm sure there's a few more baboons maybe on the ground busy foraging, while those two that are in the tree are making sure that their troop is safe. Down to I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but below the tree there's also some impala, and you'll see these three species will use each other to their advantage. There's extra eyes and ears looking out for danger. So while a few of them have their heads down, there'll certainly be a couple with their heads up, looking, making sure that there's nothing that comes through and that nothing's going to take them by surprise. They're also right on the edge of the Timbavati riverbed, which case gives that baboon, who've got incredibly good eyesight, a bigger vantage point in being able to see much further. Leopards love to hang around this riverbed and move through it, but I don't think one's going to get anywhere near this area, simply because of the amount of eyes and ears that are looking out for danger. There's a younger zebra over there. See, it's got a slightly more brown color to it. You'll often see the zebras as well in their white stripes, having a little bit of a darker tinge. Down here, these plain zebras have got like what we call a shadow stripe. I don't know if you can see it so much on this one. Particularly on the back legs there, you see in between the dark black stripes, there's that shadow stripe. And you'll see that white in some of these zebras will often turn quite a brown color. And that'll be when they're rolling around in the sand. Look at those two younger ones there. They're so amazing. Have a look at those tails, almost permanently swishing, trying to get rid of flies and insects that might be irritating them. They're all very busy though, hey? Feeding and feeding. Beautiful impala ram at the back there. It's quite a windy day as well, so you'll see a lot of these herbivores, which are often a prey species to a lot of predators. They'll try and move into the more open areas, and there are some open areas just to our left. I think at the moment they're just feeding on the more nutritious grass on the banks of the riverbed, but they'll move into the open areas, and the reason for that being is when the wind is blowing, their senses are somewhat dulled, particularly their sense of hearing, sense of smell, which they rely on so much to detect predators. The reason for that being is when the wind is blowing, you can't hear nearly as well. You can't smell, particularly if the wind is changing directions on a frequent basis. So they'll spend some time in the open areas where they can rely on their sense of sight a lot more. You can see that zebra on the right. Remember I was telling you about the colors. Look how much browner it is. It's been spending a lot more time rolling around in the sand. Kind of ran into the group there. So if there was a predator in this area that came through, one of the animals, whichever one sees it first, will sound the alarm, and then everybody will be on alert and have a look for that predator. I'm going to keep going. I might pop into the riverbed, try and see if we can maybe find a leopard that might be moving around in these cooler temperatures. In the meantime, I'll send you to another live location. Yeah. How's that little baboon? Let's stay here for a little bit longer. Oh, amazing how they jump and how they know exactly which branches are going to hold them. Keeping an ever watchful eye. So all sorts of activity just at the bottom of the tree. You'll also see those impalas that we spotted earlier might go to the bottom of the tree. If the baboons drop any fruit, the impala will pick up on those. So as I said earlier, I think I'm going to pop into the riverbed shortly and try and see if we can find a leopard. In the meantime, I'll send you to another live location.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Lions still hanging around the watering hole, but we've seen some of the members just hugging the tree line and strategically positioning themselves where the mother has taken the other two cubs also into the tree line. We left here with, there we go, with the other cubs just in the distance there. Everything being strategic about how they do things. I think the other cub is slowly now also going to join, learning how important it is to be cryptic and be hidden, especially around these areas where there's potential of game coming to drink. Obviously, for them, that would be a potential meal. So they have to strategically try and position themselves there. Let's see what happens. Tia, can lions get tick bite fever? In my experience, I have never heard of it. I do know of other diseases that lions could get, things like your feline AIDS and so on, and TB and so on. But tick bite fever on lions, I have never heard of it. I will try find out, but in my personal experience and opinion, no. Look at the paws there. A very interesting thing about the paws. On one of the previous episodes, we spoke about how cheetah cannot actually retract their claws. And now with the lions here, you can see how it's just the paw and all the claws are actually hidden or retracted back in a sheath where you cannot actually see them. Good job there, Dave. Very beautiful.
Well, here we are. I've left the toppies and we are changing areas and see what we can find. But it looks like we have wildebeest and a lot of vultures on the trees in front here. We'll share them shortly. And it's just a magical view that we have here. Look at this. Now look at the view, and we have lots of vultures there. I don't know what is on that. I don't know what they are waiting for. There could be a predator that's feeding somewhere nearby, but there is a lot of, animals everywhere. You can see that tree is full of vultures, so it means that there could be a predator nearby feeding. So it's still on the kill, so they cannot come down to feed. So you just have to take a look, see what if we can find them. But it's proving to be hard, very thick. There's a lot of thickets everywhere. So I'm gonna try and drive on and then take a vantage point and look down there, see if I can find something. While I go there, let's take you to another safari vehicle.
Our buffalo search is not going particularly well, unfortunately, but we keep bumping into elephant bulls. Lots of young elephant bulls. So there's another 2 of them, probably around the same age as the one we saw earlier, but now standing on the tallest or the highest point on Pride Lands, I believe. It's right about here. And as you can see, the wind is still pumping through here, which is so interesting. I've often seen elephants, going to the lowest areas when it's very windy like this. But these elephants are quite happy, and you can see how they're flapping their ears like that. That is, a sign that they may be quite warm and they're just trying to cool down. I don't know if you can hear, the wind is howling through my ears. I'm sure you can probably hear it on the mic as well. But these elephants are just feeding. That one's actually leaning against a tree there. Sometimes you've got to get the weight off, especially if you weigh 3 or 4 tons. Just slowly walking through, feeding as they go. Right now, nothing is moving fast. Because there's literally so much food to be found everywhere, they literally just amble along. They take mouthfuls of food. Every step they go, they grab another mouthful of food. Before the rains fell and it was very dry, you used to find the elephants moving huge distances every day. Kayleen, one tusk can weigh all sorts of different weights. It all depends on the size. I mean, that tusk that we can see in the picture is not a particularly big one. That one probably just weighs maybe 10 kilos, maybe a little bit less. The whole tusk, goes into the skull slightly there, where you can see it going into the skin just by the trunk. But some of the biggest Kruger Park tuskers, I believe, had tusks weighing almost 100 kilograms. So that's, amazing, right? That's a huge piece of ivory. Now, it doesn't need to be that big. I actually think that an elephant with tusks that large is actually at a disadvantage, Kayleen, but certainly slightly larger tusks than this would make an elephant much more formidable when it comes to fighting. Think about it. An elephant's already a very heavy animal, and if it has even bigger tusks, 50, 60 kilograms now, bigger than that even, it's just a huge amount of weight. That's over 100 kilograms on its head, adding to the weight. Imagine trying to climb up onto the back of a female if you had to mate, or if you wanted to lie down to sleep, trying to get up again must be a disaster. And then also with the added length, the chances of it breaking is quite high. That in itself probably wouldn't be, painful as long as it didn't damage the nerves, which are at the base of it. The part which we can see extruding there's no nerves in that. So that if it broke, wouldn't cause the elephant pain. It wouldn't be uncomfortable, no doubt about that. But it wouldn't be painful. This elephant's got a little bit of a notch in its right tusk there. It's probably been using that right tusk quite frequently to break branches and also twigs and to gouge bark, that kind of stuff. The other elephant that walked past us a moment ago that was in the shot had actually the whole right-hand side of its trunk was bright green from all the fresh green leaves that's been plucking off on the one side. Linda, elephants can communicate over huge distances, so to find a female that's receptive would not be particularly difficult. I'm sure they're in communication with all the elephants around, and they can communicate over many, many kilometers. But these bulls are too young, really, to be looking for mates just at this time. They are just practicing for the fighting that they need and feeding as much as they can to get larger. And at about 35 years old, I'd say, they start to get large enough, maybe a bit earlier, maybe around 30. They start to get old enough and big enough to compete for females. But, big bulls like Kumo that we've seen and Isilwini, who occasionally comes through here, of course, will dominate them and they won't really get many chances. But once they get big and strong enough and they hear some females in the area, they'll go and investigate. And they'll use their incredible sense of smell to pick up pheromones and to be able to understand, well, not really pheromones, but they'll smell the urine of the females, and they'll be able to know if they're in estrus, what's their reproductive state, and, whether they're ready for mating and that kind of stuff. So they don't have to worry too much about never finding a mate or struggling to find a mate. We are in the Greater Kruger National Park, and there are a huge abundance of elephants here. I think estimates that I read recently said somewhere over 15,000 or close to 15,000 elephants in the Kruger National Park. So that's a huge number. And we've seen sometimes 60, 70 elephants just here on the area of Pride Lands. And that's only what we saw. So there are plenty of elephants, plenty of opportunities. There's always another fish in the sea, or there's plenty of fish in the sea. So they say plenty of elephants in the bush. And these two don't seem to be going very far. As I said before, they don't need to move far at this time of year. There's water, plenty of water at the eco-training camp, which we're probably only about a kilometre away right now. And there's so much green vegetation, and there's plenty of shade, and there's just everything that they need. And we've seen these bulls coming to the waterhole almost every single day for swimming sessions around midday. I expect much the same today. What I haven't seen recently is a herd. Well, not on game drive anyway. I've seen them at the waterhole, but on the game drive they seem to disappear. I'm not sure where they head to, but probably some thicket somewhere where there's lots of green, soft vegetation, and they can hide the babies and stay out of the very hot sun. I mean, the sun right now is right above us, and although we've got a little bit of cloud cover and there's a bit of wind, it's keeping it cool. I know that as soon as the wind dies down and the clouds go away, we're going to get blistered in the sun. Sunscreen is hot property, and for an elephant they don't have sunscreen. So they'll be at the dam in the middle of the day when it's hottest to cover themselves in, well, first of all, to have a swim, to cool down, and then to cover themselves in mud to help protect their skin from the sun. I mean, they don't suffer as badly as we do, but they certainly can get skin damage, and I know that they need to keep out of the sun whenever they can. Right now it's cool enough, though. They don't have to worry too much. Can hear a few birds still calling. I mean, it's the springtime, so not only are the elephants, these elephant bulls, looking for females eventually when they get older, but all the birds going crazy. We've got migrant birds that have arrived. I can actually hear some European bee-eaters right now flying over us. So it's really just, I think it's a time of plenty.
Still back with the lions. It looks like there is some interest in the background there. We'll quickly go over and see what is sparking interest there. No, maybe just changing position. It almost for a second got us thinking that there was interest there. No, there is. Look at the position. There is a bit of interest there. There we go. Let's see. Shh. No. Could have just heard something in the distance and just being ready for it. All senses have to be tuned in. Look at that. Definitely picking something in the distance. Could be a smell, could be a sound. Still trying to figure it out. Being very optimistic here. Look at that posture. if nothing happens here, I think we're going to be moving on and leaving these lions and try to find something else for you guys over to the next beautiful area in Africa.
Beautiful, better. Lions sometimes can be very freeze when it gets much warmer. We're in this very drenched line now, right now, looking at this beautiful owl sitting on its nest. Spotted eagle owl. I think it's been seen here for quite some times. And it only take long for them to be able to sit on their nest, which incubation is about 29, 33 days, but doing that by female only. So yeah, they are one of the birds that sometimes you find them on a rock curve when they do nest, sometimes in a beautiful fog of the trees, but in holes. And this is what they do. But now, very on this ground, trying to, figure out, that one of the, if you look compared to that soils and all the background, it's more similar like this bird. So it's more about camouflage and safety in a point of view. It counts so much, more especially the eggs on the ground. So she wasn't going to be moving away from this area for long. And then the husband will probably provide some of the food if it's necessary, so that she spend a lot of time here trying to incubate these eggs. So 40 to 42 days nesting, depending on the parents, for maybe 5 weeks, sometimes more, if it does not succeed on incubations. Lay anything from about 1 to 3 eggs. A lot of time, maybe 2 survive, 1 maybe doesn't. And one of the birds rely on feeding. They go for scrub hares, which is scrub hare out there. They're quite big in size, like a rabbit. But these birds can able to take that down. They go for most other birds as well. And all lizards will be taken, anything that moves, and they are nocturnal birds. So during this time of the day, they freeze, and all they do, they close their eyes, just like what she's doing there. But she's actually keeping an eye on us as well. So many times, for that, if the other birds here spot her right there, they will be giving a lot of noises. Bubbles, good morning. So you want to know how many eggs this bird can lay? Clutch 1 to 6 eggs usually, but 2 to 3 incubated. That's the average number for this bird of eggs. And then, incubation is anything like 33, 29 days sometimes. And only the incubation done only by the females a lot of times. So the male doesn't spend a lot of time there. But their pair, really, they always pair of them. If it's not breeding, you only find 2 of them sometimes, but not together. They, during their hunting, far apart slightly, maybe 50 yards or 40 yards, depend at night. And then you communicate. You find them on the roads. A lot of these birds become vulnerable to cars, who drove around here quite fast, or some places where it's not a national park or reserve, where nobody cares, and they just got to be hit by a car or died right on the road because they aim for any movement, sitting on the branches, anything that, light or, car will flash into its prey, it's just going to fly down there as they catch it, and the car's right there at the same time, and died right on the spot. But, they're in a reserve, that's not happening a lot, so you find Chexi, good morning. So you want to know if it's common for the nest to be on the ground. This is my second nest that I've seen different eagles, same species. So usually anything where it's smooth, mound, where it's pretty much cliff, or here we're in a river, which makes sense. And there it's actually beautiful cliff where there is a shader also covered with all background camouflage. So they mainly on the ground or holes of the trees, if it's, it balance also suitable enough for that bird to actually able to use it as a nest, or it fits in that hole to actually make it as a nest, or maybe one of these rock curved where they would go in there. Yeah, but it's actually common for this bird to be nesting on the ground as well. Beautiful spot pattern. All our eyes opened, just checking on eyes. So I'm gonna check a few roads here. Tswalu was a scene crossing from Garryman towards Twin Dam, and then I got Tristan helping on the other side to hopefully get luck. And while we're doing that, let me take you to another guide who will be continue to show you the beauty of the wild and African animal.
Well, a little bit farther from where you left me, I've come across this wildebeest and zebra, and this is something that I need to tell you that now they're really crossing the road to the left, and that tells me they're going north, which is totally not the direction they're supposed to be going, according to me and the books. But they have a mission, and they are going, and there's nothing we can do about it. They are going north. It is not the whole migration, but for them to be here, it is the migration, because this time of the year we don't see this many zebra and wildebeest. It is amazing. I hope you're enjoying this. It is one in a lifetime chance to have them here this late, and I'm not complaining. They are really on the move here, and this is something the wildebeest and the zebra are born to do throughout their life. They're always moving and constantly, aiming to reach somewhere, and this is exactly what we have here. This, time of the year, they're supposed to be gone, but exactly this time they're supposed to be zero wildebeest here. Kaylin Jumbo, and thank you for that very beautiful question. Yes, we have, zebra and wildebeest that stay. If you go to an area called Aitong, that is the northernmost part of the Mara Game Reserve, it is, demarcated to conservancies, which is privately run. Just like where we are in the Mara Triangle, is called the Mara Conservancy. You will find wildebeest and a very good number in an Aitong area. Also, there are conservancies on the other side of the river, like Orkinyei Conservancy. You will find, wildebeest. Naboisha Conservancy, you will find wildebeest. And Olare Motorogi, you will find wildebeest. So we have resident ones that are left, and it's the only part that they remain. For some reason unknown to me, they love to be there. But here in the triangle, we normally have only zebra, not the wildebeest. Kaylin, remember that this annual migration of wildebeest from the Serengeti to the Mara, it's not the only one. We have another one called the loiter migration that has got almost about 400 to 500 individuals, wildebeest and zebra, but it only happens between Kenya. They go to some plains called the loiters, quite a long way on the other side of the Mara, and then they come to the eastern side of the Mara, sometimes mixing up with these huge herds and heading back to the Serengeti. And most of them go back to the loiters. So we do have two types of migration in the Masai Mara, called the loiter migration and the great migration, which is this one you are looking at. And this one is the most historical one, it's the most known, because the numbers outnumber most of the animals anywhere in the world. They haven't reached the river anywhere, I haven't seen, but they seem to be going farther and farther north, as you can see. This is amazing, guys. Remember to talk to us, #WildEarth. Question, comments are really, really welcome. Yes, I hope you're enjoying that view. The trees are different here. We have the Boschia coriacea. You can tell that the top is not as flat. This is a tree that I think in the near coming years we will lose completely, because there is a bacteria that's feeding on the trunk, and every couple of years it falls, and I never see new ones. They're slightly different if you look at the shapes. Very, very different. Yeah, this is a Boschia. Well, enjoy that view. I'm gonna stick here for a little bit.
Another beautiful find. Interesting enough, it's something we've been talking about but haven't seen yet. It's your common eland, the biggest antelope that I was asked earlier, which was the biggest antelope. This is the eland, weighing almost up to a ton. I've heard people say there's been records of bulls clocking over a ton. I'd like to see that one day, but I have seen how big these majestic antelopes can be. And you can also imagine, I mean, for a big antelope like this to actually be surviving in such conditions, it's just an amazing and mind-blowing thing how a species of such caliber does well in these conditions. Look at that dewlap, look at the nautical hump, look at the horns, I mean everything. And there's a baboon also coming through. Shakma baboon. Very, very shy animals also, your eland. That's why we're giving them a bit of a distance and see what they do. A very interesting thing, if we do manage to get a little bit closer, sometimes when they do walk, they will make clicking sounds with their feet. Daryl, age 9, why do they stick together? Everything in the bush is all about survival. And survival comes in many ways. So you'd look at animals, different species coming together, or just a species on its own having different members of a family. The bigger the group, the more eyes there are, the more senses around that group there would be, and it's easier for them to actually spot threat from afar. And that's why species tend to be together. And sometimes when you do find different species also coming together, it's also because the different senses of different species. For example, if you have your giraffe and the giraffe would give height advantage to the other species. If you find baboons with things like your impala, and so baboons can climb trees and so on. So all of that comes into play. And you also find that other animals actually learn different warning signs from each other. As we were talking about the meerkats the other day, where the meerkats would have different calls, for example, for different threats. Baboons are also known to do the same, where they would have different calls for different threats. So all that links to survival and managing to actually make it out here in the bush. Lucia, can predators bring such an antelope down? Yes, definitely. If you have two big male lions and they pursuing and going after an animal like that, if they've got the advantage, they'll definitely be able to take down an antelope of that size. If you also have a pride where there's very experienced females in the pride, you've got a few of them, a handful of them, they'll definitely be able to
All right. My herds are still, milling around, grazing, happily, enjoying the morning coolness. There are so many, yet they're very, very quiet. That is where they're making a mark for me, telling me that they're all heading north. And it's such a beautiful scene. Remember to talk to us, #WildEarth, question, comments. This is happening now. It's happening here in the Masai Mara. And you can hear every now and then the zebra, barking. This is the common or the butcher zebra. When they reach the road, looks like they love it. They tend to pause a little bit and then move on. I don't know how far they're going to go to get today, but in the next maybe 24 hours, they might be able to reach towards very close to our camp, which is going to be a bonus. Just drive out and there they will be. That's going to be really cool. Hali Jumbo, will one group of zebras have one stallion? Of course, if it's a dazzle, and a dazzle means a few mares and foals, he will be the only one. There might be from 1 to around 12. If they are more than that, it means it's a few herds that have come together. We call them dazzles, a dazzle of zebra, which usually everybody knows who is their stallion, their male, and the stallion knows his mares. And once every time there's enough space, they will separate and find each other. It is normal to do that, but if they're spooked and they're all mixed up, usually there is a lot of calling for the stallion trying to locate his mares, and also the mares trying to locate the male, and also the foals. So it differs. An area like this, it's just a mixture of many dazzles. There is no stress and nobody is calling, so it means everybody knows where their stallion is or their mares. Looks like those are two males and they have disagreed about something, and when they do that, they normally try to bite each other's ankles to tear off so that they disable one another. Also, they do bite the neck, causing some serious injuries. Of course, there's few fatalities, but injuries can be quite serious. He's a very bully, that one to the right. He started the whole trouble, and you can tell he's trying to, he's gotten a kick. He's really get that. Yeah, they're still going. They're still trying to go. See, when they bend down, they're trying to avoid each other from biting the ankles. Yeah, he's gotten the neck. They have 4 canines equipped for fighting and defense, and that's what they try to bite with. Unlike other herbivores, other grazers, zebras are some of the few herbivores that have got those canines. It's such a beautiful scene here, set here by the zebra and wildebeest. Just have a look at that and move your eye quickly. You might not pick up where it starts and ends. That is what is called the visual pollution. Sasikazi, how many zebras are killed by crocodiles crossing the river? I am not sure. They are not as many as the wildebeest. I cannot give you a number, but not as many as the wildebeest killed by crocodiles. I cannot give you an exact number. Yes, here looks like they're loving the road. Look at that. More and more stopping there. It's just a beautiful scene. I hope you're enjoying. I was trying to explain, if you look at those zebras all together, mixed up there, you might not be able to figure out where the line starts and ends. And so imagine for those insects with compound eyes, they see stripes everywhere, get really confused, can't figure out where to land. Looks like this is the main area where they're crossing, and it's just super. Yeah, remember, this is all part of the annual migration. Happens once a year. Yeah, the virtual zebra usually leads, and then the wildebeest follow. But looks like here, they're all together. It is normal. But eventually they will separate as they head south. It is known to happen that way. Separation usually happens when they get to the river. I have seen them, you find that the wildebeest want to cross, then the zebras will stay behind, and that is the best place to see them, separating, the two. This area is an area I don't think they'll stick for very long because it's rather wooded, and grazers know that predators lurk around this kind of habitats, and they will move on. This kind of habitat, we call it the wooded savanna, which has got lots of shrubs and different types of trees, perfect for leopards, hyenas, and lions. Well, there might seem that, you might think that this animal will overgraze, the land here. But believe me, animals know how to take care of the land, because they don't stick around for very long. They will graze as they move on and then come back here maybe in a few weeks or months. They did that at the beginning of this month, and now they're back, and there is plenty of grass for them to feed on. Okay, I'm going to try and move closer, but I'm not leaving this scene. Another live location awaits you.
It's not often that we get to see warthogs on camera, to be honest. Well, every time we do, they seem to bolt off, except for the ones close to our eco-training camp. But these two seem pretty relaxed. It's two lovely lady warthogs that are just feeding amongst the short grass in this fairly open clearing, as well as a whole bunch of impalas. Now, warthogs are quite short, so it'll be quite nice. Oh, there's a vehicle that's about to cross in front of us. We are on a boundary road, so he waves. Sorry, no problem at all. That's okay. People have got things to do. So we're on a boundary road here. So these warthogs are just on this little bit of a clearing on the opposite side of our boundary. And what's nice is that you see these impalas and warthogs together. Oh, they're all going to run off now. Now, warthogs are so short, they can't always see over the grass. So it's nice to have impalas with them who can spot anything dangerous that might be lurking. Now, you see all the impalas are looking over to the left there. I thought I had heard an alarm call a bit earlier. Moved through here yesterday or this morning. That's still got them all riled up. Where it is also quite windy, does mean that they are on extra alert. In other words, I think yesterday afternoon, or maybe yesterday morning, I can't really remember now, there was reports of lions. No, it was yesterday morning. Lions calling across the boundary. So not far from what's still be in the area. And that's also maybe what's got these animals just a little bit nervous. They will certainly feel a lot in clearing like this. It means that they need to be snuck up on, and especially when there's so many. There's about 30 or 40 impalas there, so plenty of eyes and ears as hog snouts to find the danger.
Oh, beautiful find. A ground agama there on a ball of dung. It's been actually feeding on the little termites coming out of that dung ball. So that's why it's fixated like that on that dung ball. Beautiful cryptic colorations there. As you can see, a bit of red, brown, orange. Beautiful colors there coming through. Also catching the sun at the same time. Being a reptile, they rely on the exterior for their temperature, or for regulating their own body temperature. So it's almost like a 2-in-1 combo there, getting food and also regulating its body temperature at the same time, basking a little bit in the sun. A little bit risky for him because anything now is in the open. Anything could come and snatch him, being in the open and exposed like that. And that's why those colors come handy, just to make him camouflage and blend in. Blending so well in.
Well, we've also done quite nicely for ourselves this morning. So we unfortunately lost Ngana, and then had reports that Sabi had crossed into our side, and it took us a fair bit of tracking between Andrew and myself, and we eventually found her hiding out, taking it easy in one of the little drainage areas. So nice to see her. Apparently she's dropped her cubs off just south of the boundary, which means that hopefully she'll rest here for the day, and then this afternoon maybe go and fetch them and bring them back if she has some sort of success. That would be nice. But we really are starting to develop a pattern with Sabi, which is super exciting. In fact, the only reason we found her is based off the fact that I've tracked her now, I think this is about the 4th time, through exactly the route she's taken this morning. And because of that, we kind of thought we'll just double check this game path that she's been walking on, and sure enough, she was there. So it just goes to show how they do have a very sort of set way about them, and that they like to do things in routine. So particularly when they are territorial, and obviously she seems to be pushing a lot more into this area, and I think there's a very big reason for that. She's been fighting a little bit with a female to the south down towards Mala, but on top of that her 2 cubs are now getting quite old, and she at some point is going to have to start figuring out how to make space. Obviously she had Kupona, who's just to the south of her at the moment, which was her previous litter. And then she's got now a female in the form of Langa. Now, that female is also going to have to carve out a piece of territory, which means that maybe, just maybe, Sabi is either coming up here to create that territory for Langa, and then we'll kind of move back south, or she's going to leave Langa to the south of her and start to push north a little bit more. So that's maybe why we're seeing much more of a kind of push into Djuma. What is interesting, though, is that her tracks, or where she's walked, was exactly the opposite direction that Thandi walked this morning. So Thandi's tracks went northwards, but they overlapped on one of the roads, and she was sniffing around there and then turned more to the kind of west, which is interesting. So the 2 of them, I'm sure, are going to come to blows again at some point. They obviously have before on Chitwa, but I expect them to come to blows again soon. So not sure. Honestly, I've drawn the biggest blank ever. I mean, I don't know why I've forgotten this, but her age has escaped me massively right now. I'm forgetting what day she's born. Sorry, there's just been so many other leopards we've been seeing lately that I haven't actually read up on her much, and I have forgotten. But I think it was, I'm going to throw a guess out here because I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken, 2014, 2015, somewhere there. But I might be wrong. It might be a little bit earlier than that. So she's not an old leopard. She's kind of in her prime at the moment. She's only on her second litter of cubs. So I think it was 2014, but like I say, I might be wrong. James Richard will correct me quickly, which will be good. Like I say, my brain's getting old, and so sometimes I forget these things. But isn't that camouflage amazing when she gets in there? If you quickly kind of drove past her, you would never see her. If Theo zooms out a little bit for me, you'll see what I mean. So that would be kind of the view that we have now driving around. So you can imagine for us, it can sometimes be quite tricky, and often people think, well, you should spot these animals pretty easily, but if you're driving on the road, you're going to have zero idea that leopard is there. You're going to have to know that she's got tracks, and that's what makes being in these areas such an advantage is that we're able to follow tracks and drive the cars off-road, and that gives you an ability to be able to see leopards in spots like that. So yeah, I got lucky in some respects that obviously she was also lying out a little bit more in the open to start with. But she's grooming herself now. That's generally an indication that this is where she's going to want to lie down for the day. She might get up and move. She might decide if there's a prey animal, but the sun's starting to come out and starting to get hot, and so she's got herself into a nice little thicket, and I expect her not to move too far from here today. I think she's going to take it easy. But just to let you know, with Tingana, kind of where he ended up going very far east and then turning south towards Chitwa. So he's still on a movement, didn't mark once while we were with him. So I think he's transitioning into a nomadic individual. If a lot of you that have watched for a long time will know him, Vula did it for a long time and stayed perfectly healthy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just part and parcel of a male leopard's life. It just means we're going to see him ranging much bigger areas than he used to, and being in funny places at funny times. He's not going to be as consistent as what we had in the past. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's the way, like I say, of the way things go. It's one of those things. And luckily, we've got so many females around at the moment that have really kind of changed the way things are for us, which is really, really cool. Anyway, it's that time, I'm afraid, for all of us to say goodbye to all of you this morning. Hopefully you've had a wonderful drive with us. Seems like there's been lots and lots of things, a little bit of something for everybody. So we're going to leave her be, and we'll see you all this afternoon for our sunset safari.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats, and with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too. Join me on my next adventure in the African wilds on DSTV channel 183.
Include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have Baby Jasiri, who is